Okay, my apologies. The studio software doesn't show that anything is happening. I can see now that it is. I tried to start it again. Okay, so are we live? So give me an indication in the chat if this is actually live, because I don't see anything in the preview, right? So that's the thing here. My apologies. The studio software doesn't show that
now I
anything
hear
is
it coming
happening.
back.
I can see now that it is. I tried to start it again.
God, that's so weird. Okay.
Okay, so
that shouldn't be happening
so
at all.
give me an indication in the
Holy
chat.
crow. Yeah, something went really nutty. So that's really annoying. I don't want that to happen. I don't know what happened, guys. It went crazy on me. So here's what we'll do. Again, apologize for this because I can't see it. Let's see if resetting does anything to that. My apologies. This is very, it's awkward because I haven't. Yes, I have that. Okay. It says it's going. You guys say it's going. I don't see anything in the preview pane, but that's all right. So if you, I know, right? Murphy's Law. So if you're okay with it, I'll just go back, and I was going to do some noodles. So I'll do some noodles, and then I'll come back and try to figure this out. Because I've been gone for a while, and OBS obviously updated a couple of times, and so I thought I had it worked out. Did pretty well yesterday or earlier. In any case, let's just we'll keep going. I'll start the noodles, and we'll, with your permission, we'll just start over because there is apparently no. I don't see the output showing up. So you say you do see the Bigfoot, our friend Yeti. How about this? There should be a scene change there. Again, I don't see it on my preview pane. Tell me if and when there's a change in what you can see. How awkward and embarrassing. I hate when that happens. So let me know if and when there's a change. Apparently we still are. Live, but okay, so you see that. Thank you, Megsy. Okay, I'll just continue then. Not discontinue, but I will continue. I tried to leave the Yeti, so okay, sound visuals good. All right, cool. We'll do this, and again, I just don't have any preview pane, so according to the to what I would normally see, a preview of exactly what's happening for you guys, I don't get that. I've got a black twirly thing. It says stream help. So it's working. Hi, Mama Love. How are you? Okay, so I'm going to just continue as though unabated, as though everything worked well. So we'll just start over. How about that? Back up 5 minutes, 5 yards, and putt. I'll tell you what. Before we even do that.
Well, I guess I haven't lost the the gift for getting them to recycle. And now we'll
fire up some noodles for a few minutes, if that's okay. It helps clear my mind and kind of, it's always extemporaneous and ephemeral, so it allows me to open up my mind and hopefully listening closely for the Spirit of Dad. Come join us, as I always am delighted when the Creator family shows up for a visit. It's pretty cool. Okay, we'll start that, and you guys just hang tight. We'll get a little noodle in, and then I'll say howdy and go on. It's so great to see you, by the way. Megsy, I love you so much here. Every time I see, even just seeing your name gives me a big bunch of joy. And Mama Love, Mama, you know the deal. You know the drill. She's just the best. I want to also say, if you make it by here, Joelle, thank you for the fabulous gift this week. It was unexpected and really, really lovely. So thank you for that. Also wanted to say thank you for a couple of folks, more than one, but a couple of folks who made a fairly substantial donation to your friend, the Great-Baldini, through PayPal. And I want to thank you for that. I tried to thank you within PayPal, and it wouldn't do it. It just kept going to the say thank you screen, and it would say you can't do that. So I contacted their tech support to say, it would be nice to be able to at least say thank you, because some of the folks, I don't have their direct email address. And that's the way, probably should be, that just be your pal. I think we all know this, but I hadn't previously had too much difficulty with them. I had some problems with them. With some of the other financial folks, but I hadn't so far had too much of a problem with PayPal. And then they started the nonsense right away. First, they gave me all kinds of security issues, right, that I hadn't had before. And so I'm like, hey, what's going on with that? And this is after, talking to them about, hey, it would be super great if you'd fix the thing where I could, say, thank you to people. They acknowledged, it was a thing. They'd be working on it. They were supposed to get back with me. And I guess by way of getting back with me, they took all the money that had been donated to me and then put a hold on it. So even though I'd already started the transfer to the lion's share, but to my bank, which is, how I would spend it. And I'd leave some there in the PayPal, because that's how I can quickly and easily give people money or whatever they need it. I don't do much of that these days for reasons, but in any case, it was well, they're not your friend, so they changed the terms of service, I guess. Without, maybe they told me, I don't know for sure, but I don't recall it. So because apparently it's a very new change, and I had signed up as a business, right? Because I need it for the tax purposes, since I'm kind of doing this as sort of a sideline business. That's the way the IRS wants to look at it anyway. They want to get their hands into it, so in order to do that, I have to keep records, right? Otherwise, they come back and say, hey, you're not keeping the appropriate records, and what gives. So with that, it makes it kind of difficult. So they're kind of getting crossways anyway. Point being, so they've now separated it. You have to either choose that it's a just a personal account, or it's a business account, whereas previously I kind of used it for both, but I had a business account set up so that it would be easier for me to deal with all the tax implications and stuff, because although I don't really make any money here, the government sure wants to get their hands on it. So yeah, right. Nachiketa, for sure. There's a bunch of material for sure. So when I'm able and ready to get back and kind of do this a little bit more full time, to address these things that are out there, there's never any end to material. In fact, I have to be honest and just say that, well, I'm always going to be honest, right? I felt responsibility since I have been transparent this entire time, despite the, detractors and people who like to make all sorts of unsubstantiated and, frankly, unkind suggestions and more than suggestions, allegations. I'm sure I'll show you some of that, because I didn't want to give it too much attention. But it's like, it doesn't bother me so much, except for that it was put there to keep you away, right? It was it is specifically designed, presumably if anybody's been here for more than 5 minutes and they know that I don't
really care what anybody thinks. I mean, I want you to be satisfied. I want you to be uplifted, right? I want that you're comforted, and I want you to find your place into the comforting arms of our Creator. That'd be my desire, right? But other than asking for His presence and giving you, like mentioning the opportunity to people, I don't do anything other than that. So there's no manipulation or anything on my part, and there's no certainly not anything being disingenuous. Like, what do I have to lie to you about? I read Scripture, for crying out loud, and I give ideas or say, hey, I think this is the way things might be. This is my take on it. But beyond that, right, I haven't been out grifting or making any demands or anything like that, unlike some other people, right? But I think it's hilarious that, often the ones who are, complaining about it are the ones who are themselves guilty of doing the most of it. But let's not let this devolve into that, shall we? I want to do a little noodling because it does help me clear my mind, like I said, and I'll connect with the Creator and hopefully share with you what comes of that. And I hope that you are able to connect with the Creator in the same way or at the same time. We'll just do it together. I hope that that you're able to close your eyes, unless you're driving or someplace you need your vision. But if you just take a moment, this is where I'm going to do my best to open the door and knock on the door of the throne room, invite Dad and anybody who wants to, from that team, who wants to show up here as well and hang out. As I, in my mind, bring glory and attention to our Creator, the one who made us and designed us so fearfully and wonderfully. And every time I consider, like, going through all this health stuff, as I consider just the unbelievably complex and just crazy cool design of the human body. Of any living organism, certainly they're fascinating. I'm all the way down to the smallest little the cells, right, and the nucleus of the cells, and the vacuoles in there, like everything, all the stuff that happens in DNA. If you get really down into proteins and how they work in the body, it's so complex and so brilliantly designed, and each little system is just more complex than the next. It's mind-blowing, and that's the world in which we live. And yet we're told that it just happened by accident because it needed to be that way, because nature is just cool like that. So you're just going to get some evolution. Never mind that because there are two genders. Oh dear, I'm going to get deplatformed. That it requires that to have procreation. If there were such a thing as microevolution or little bits of changes, genetic stuff over time, of course, how much would there be of the detritus along the way that didn't quite make it, right, or didn't have all the things that it needed? Well, you'd have to have identical changes in both the male and the female at exactly the same time in exactly the same way in order for the next progeny to come to fruition, because if they don't, it's going to be a failure. And anybody that knows anything about biology knows that little window of viability is pretty small. Actually, it's designed to keep like to like, right, after their kind. That's the way it was designed. And although we can do some things from time to time, like ligers and that sort of stuff, it's a difficult proposition. As anybody who has worked or knows anything about animal husbandry, that sort of stuff, it's again, it's fascinating. We have as our designer and creator, and here's the thing, an offer of a friendship, like it, not just not just at a distance and some thought in a book, or not some philosophy, but a beautiful being whose nature is the very definition of love. And good for us, they are more powerful than anything you can imagine. In fact, so powerful that they were able to simply speak, and all things became, right, from the power of that spoken word. So designed the entire system and then instantiated it. And then we come along and go, yeah, we're good. We made this. There's no
There's no audio. Anyway, that sort of arrogance. So I'm going to leave it alone. I'll also notice, and again, if you are kind of new here or you're returning and you think, hey, you sound a little weird, you're pausing a lot, that sort of thing, voice sounds a little weird. I'll explain later. I'm so not into just going through it over and over and over. But again, I have taken the position of being transparent about all the stuff, including the I won't say medical, but I'm going to say health related issues. And my search to figure out what's happening there and to try to get healthy again. So I have been completely transparent and open about that, much to the chagrin of some folks. But there have been developments and some things occurred that I would say probably not ideal in the long term. Other than that, we serve an amazing deity. I don't even, they say God, all this sort of stuff. He's my friend. And when I kind of figure out what he's doing, it's so brilliant. And I love them so much. They're just awesome. Anyway, without getting into all that kind of depressive stuff, it's just, it's a bummer, but maybe not. Anyway, one of the things that I noticed, and again, I want to apologize in advance, is that part of what happens is that this is a neurological disorder, actually 2 of them. I got the lotto win here, but so 2 different, and I think they're sort of related, but they wouldn't categorize them in the same way. But both are related to the myelin sheath that surrounds the nerve pathways, and there is now developed. It's a degenerative, both of them. And so there's like a delamination process that appears to be occurring, and that presents an opportunity for crosstalk, right? So if you have an electrical circuit and you have 2 separate wires and they're close to each other, if there's not proper shielding in between them, you can get what's called crosstalk, or the information that's carried on one pathway gets picked up by the other. And then it creates confusion. And in a digital system, it'll cause error and dropout. In an analog system, of course, you'll hear it as, unwanted audio sound, buzz, crackles, all sorts of stuff will happen. And so I guess the real short on it is that last week, right after oral surgery. So I had oral surgery to have complete extraction, and that's no fun. So if I were to give out any advice, one of the things, kids, take care of your teeth. You're going to need those things. I had great dental health my whole life, and then all of a sudden there was some chemical changes in my body, and I had a couple of them start to go south, and I'm like, well, I'll put it off until I can pay for it, because dentists are really super expensive, as you know. And I started saving money, and I couldn't save money fast enough for the deterioration to come, so the teeth fell out before I could save enough money. It's just, oh God, it's just embarrassing. And but many of them were like broken at the gum line. It was pretty ugly. And I had to learn how to, basically I had the incisors at the front, and I had to kind of learn how to rabbit chew everything, because I didn't have anything there. Hey, Jenny, how are you? Good to see you. And good to see all of you. Nacha Kate, I normally, it scares me to go to break my concentration, because this is part of the tremors that are induced are also, it's all through the neurological system, and that includes the motor cortex, and it includes your brains, your thoughts. And so from time to time, I'll have a little click, and I can hear it. I listened to the last stream that I did, and it's a little upsetting that I can hear it. I can hear myself sort of check out for a moment as that process occurs, and it's like having a little tremor, right? It's having a little micro seizure again, and go, what? And what I love already, I already love how the detractors come and immediately go, neurological. Oh, okay, so you have a mental illness. What? No, it's a neurological disorder. One of them, the latest one, which was diagnosed. So here's the ironic part. I've been working like 3 years working with the medical institution, which I love that. I love getting right in the middle of the allopathic belly of the beast, and you can see their philosophy, and I mean, it's an ideology, really. Like everybody now is kind of breaking down, it seems, into ideologies more than just a ideation, or more than just a political position. It's a full-on, full-baked ideology, a religion. freaking cult. Anyway, so I try to avoid their cult-like behavior, but I need to get in there, or at least it's been a benefit for me to get in there with insurance to make use of their high-tech machinery, right? Imaging systems and all sorts of testing stuff. That's a good thing to have, and since I have insurance to be able to cover some of that stuff, I'm able to at least do some work on my own, and I. For what it's worth, was the one that suggested to the medical team, right, the myalgic encephalomyelitis, because it lined up everywhere, and they weren't looking in that direction. And sure shit, as soon as they start looking, it's like, yep, bing, ding, ding, we have a winner. I'm already. I guess I should be taking the Gregory House Award this year, because I have successfully diagnosed several different things just for I presented. Now, I'm not going to make any claims or play one on TV. Just paying attention, and that's the thing I think about my hostility. Well, I think I can do a whole show on my hostility toward the Kennedy run and Rockefeller run allopathic medical scenario, because it's straight up. It's a cult, and they're knowingly killing people to get an ideology going across, because the ideology is of vastly more importance to them than any life. And they have deep enough pockets to not only handle any lawsuits, but they can kind of cover them up and make them go away. And if you're not quiet right now, then now you have the legal system, not a justice system, because we don't have that here, but we do have a legal system, and they can immediately make you suffer, right? These are all things that, unfortunately, I feel compelled that we're going to have to go back into, because while I've been gone, I haven't been completely missing. I've been paying attention to everything that's going on around us and kind of digging deeper in those rabbit holes, and then you get some on you, and it smells real bad. So anyway, again, here's part of the problem is I keep jumping around. So hopefully it will, to some degree, correct, but part of it's not going to correct, and I'm aware of that. So I have to kind of figure out how to do this, that everything has changed overnight. So if you're missing the trick here, right after I had oral surgery last week, and so right before the week of Easter, on Easter week, I had oral surgery and the total extraction, and then day 3, so Monday morning, woke up with just severe, just burning, severe, crazy pain right at the trigeminal nerve, the left mandibular piece as it comes around. So just basically the jaw, the nerve that attaches, the big nerve attaches to your jaw, and it is responsible for a lot of the motion and feeling in your face. And it does occur sometimes in dental situations, right? That they can jar it and hit it, and it's super painful, and it will do all the things that nerves do. It's bad. I know about nerve pain. So, as a, what sort of, oh, hell, I hate it when this happens. I got distracted by the chat, and that's part of the problem, man. It's like the train comes and derails it. And so I guess I want to say that when I talk to you, it's so, like, I listened back to it. It's so bad. It was just so terrible, because I can hear what happened. Like, the way I think is so stream of consciousness, right? And so, but when I talk to people, or especially delivery like this, more than just a conversation, but even in conversations, the way that I think is very obtuse and abstract. And so I'm constantly having these multiple thought processes going on at the same time. And I just try to appear lucid. It's just a matter of grabbing those things and putting them in the right order as they appear, right? And just kind of getting feedback from the other person that are nodding in their head that they understand what I'm saying. And so it's I've been doing that my whole life, and all of a sudden something occurs and you kind of fumble a little bit, and they look at you like you're crazy, right? And you're like, well, what am I saying? Like, am I saying the wrong words? Like, I think I'm saying the right things. But I do find that there is this little pause, little tick, just like the muscular thing, and it's very disconcerting, right? And it's upsetting, because you don't want to lose your thought, but it really is just. So I listened to the playback from the last stream I did, and I was really, frankly, just interested in the noodles primarily, because I haven't touched that in this whole time either, right? So I don't know, 18 months or whatever, right? I haven't even come back in the studio at all, like, for any reason. And so because it depressed me kind of, and so I came back and
immediately as soon as this thing happened, like as soon as I realized what was happening, I got a diagnosis. I came running back in here to see if it was going to affect my keyboard playing, and of course it absolutely does. But what happened, I'm trying to get the short version here, and I already mentioned it previously, so you can go back and check that, I guess. But I had a seizure, and it obviously it's a neurological thing, but it's the name that they put on it, right? So the cause of it, or at least the triggering factor. And here's where the confusion comes. Some people say cause, and if you go with Dr. Google, it's all over the place. That's why doctors don't like you looking at Dr. Google, because there's a lot of information and very little context, and some of it comes from papers, for example, that have been translated. So here's one example of that. The new thing that just occurred, right? The seizure, it's a neurological disorder. It's called functional neurological disorder, and some would call it a conversion. That's one thing, but it looks a lot, in fact, very similar to Parkinson's, and it's very closely related to what you would see in the images if you look for film clips of guys. And perhaps in the background, I'll find this. Hopefully, I don't get a strike for it. But in the images you have of World War I, with shell shock, right? That people became shell shocked because of the extreme overwhelming thing. So let me do this, and I'll need to show you. Let's see, where is that? I'm going to need to choose one of these that has. Is that right? No. That's right. That one? No. Wrong one. Stand by. There we go. Okay. So, so this is kind of what it looks like here, if you're watching that. So, yeah, big tremors in a variety of areas. So, yeah, not quite that big for me, but there's one or two on here that are that looks like exactly what I've got going on. Not quite that, but there is a bit of I have to get a cane right away because I'm going to hurt myself if I don't. I'm going to fall down because the tremors are that bad. Let's see. There's one that I usually see that, let's see. Not like that. Let's see if this here. Oh no, I'm going to get a strike. Okay, this guy. This is pretty much it right here. That's what I look like, a dime store Michael J. Fox right now. And you can probably hear it in my voice as well. There are moments it just kind of stops, and it's like a little tick. It's like a little nervous tick, but it's in the motor cortex. So that's going to include things like talking, things like swallowing. And some of those ticks are, in the cerebral cortex, and it's part of your brain, right? So now you have, I'm brain damaged, right? And here's the funny thing is that with some translation issues, that gets translated to mental illness. Brain damage becomes mental illness. And so there are a couple of web pages that will start right out by saying conversion is conversion takes nervous energy, like mental, if let's say you have high stress or whatever, and then it converts it to this. The problem with that description, of course, is that what functionally is happening, and that's why the other term is called functional neurological disorder. Like functionally, what happens is that everyone has that little tremor, everyone, all the time. It's a tiny little tremor, and it's part of the nervous system. It's kind of seems to be the spark that keeps us going, right? So you have this tiny little thing. A similar thing appears in your ocular nerve system in your eyes, and this is one of the reasons if you were ever to be unfortunate enough to have law enforcement pull you over and they ask you to do the drunk test, part of the sobriety test, is they take a flashlight and they ask you to look at my finger and follow my finger and move it around. And what they're looking for is this state where the eyes begin to jitter and go into
a tremor. And again, we all have it all the time. It's fact, it's that function. It's the function that does that keeps your eyes sort of on a gimbal, such that you don't get sick, right? You don't get motion sickness when you go walking around, and it keeps them kind of locked in. And so when you turn your head and stuff like that, your vision always seems to resolve, and it doesn't bounce around. Right? This is part of that. And so it's sort of part of this whole system. And see, I just heard it right there. That little lengthening thing, that's a tick, right? Something weird happens neurologically, and it sounds weird. And so kind of what I wanted to get to for the whole thing, right, is that during these conversations, if I choose to right now have them, and it's very difficult because when I listen back, I just go, oh gosh. And I can hear one of the things that occurs, and kind of a weird thing is that, I guess everything is weird, but one of the things that occurs, it's not physical blindness. There's nothing wrong functionally with your eyes, but what happens is the signal gets disrupted. So there's a disruptor somewhere in the neural pathway, and what happens is that there's a little blind spot in your eye at the back of the retina, where the rods and cones can't grow because that's where the optic nerve goes in. And so what the brain does is it just sort of compensates by overlapping. Take your left eye and your right eye and kind of, because it's doing this already for 3 dimensions to give you a sense of perspective, but it also covers that little hole. And what happens is you can find it. There's a way to do it, and if you just, again, you can YouTube it, Google it, you'll see that it's just a simple thing to hold your finger and look at your finger, and you can find the blind spot that you have, and it's used, that term blind spot gets used in a variety of sociological and psychological contexts as well, because it's a great it is exactly sort of physiologically what happens psychologically. One of the strangest thing that I've noticed psychologically is that despite how you can be as perceptive and educated as possible, right? Sigmund Freud, but when it comes to you can't see it. There's that hole right there, and you can see the edges sort of, and the way that your behaviors affect others. You can get some key influencers and indexes by what's apparent by its absence, and the way people behave around you. Like one of the things when I talked to David and Jenny the other day, and I had a video chat with them, and one of the hardest parts of that conversation was that looking at them, because they're so freaking grim. Right? They're all sad, and I mean, understand it, I guess. Thank you, for being sad that I'm going through this stuff. But it's kind of intimidating being on the other side, because you look in people's faces and everybody that looks like you're already dead, and it's like, well, not quite that bad, but maybe, right? It's not. I'll say this: it's not good. A progressively degenerative neurological condition is probably not the thing you want to get. I can tell you that for certain already. But there's a lot of people, again, are going to misunderstand it because of this thing where they'll go, oh, conversion disorder. Sure. Yeah. You're mental. Okay. No, but thanks for playing. Nice parting gifts. The really unfortunate part of this, and I don't know how much I want to get into it right now because I don't know as much as I would like to know. And my neurologist is still out of town. So we have that going for us, which is nice. But ultimately the prognosis, right? If I leave it as it is and just here's the prognosis off the shelf, Dr. Google, whatever, right, is not great, because it's degenerative and neurological, part of the neurology. Well, the central seat of the neurological system is your noggin, right? So that will begin to have problems as well as the physicality stuff, and so I just won't be able to do things, and until it all stops functioning. So, and who knows how long it is. So it seems, like I said, pretty grim, but I don't know the whole story just yet. And so that has, in the past few days, as you might expect, led to a variety of some philosophical thoughts, right, as you face your own mortality. And I have mentioned this before, I think in a previous episode where I first mentioned that my mom had just passed away, that there was a phrase in Latin,
memento mori, remember that you too shall die. And it's meant as a good reminder, right, of your place in this place, and that we all die, all of us. What changes, I suppose, is how you approach that, and if you get any notice. So most people get no notice whatsoever. So having some notice probably could be a gift, right? I'm gonna take it that way. So, and am I being kind of obtuse here, right? Or yeah, because I don't really know that much, and I don't want to work you up too much. But I will say one thing that was kind of upsetting to me, and I'm going to say it pretty directly here because I'm fairly sure that this person does not follow this channel. In fact, one of the things as I go through all this, and it's probably going to be a topic of conversation later, as we get closer to that doorway, is that to this day I still find it's still a surprise, I guess, to me and to others, is that how many people I know and how many people I'm friends with who have no idea that I also am connected to some other, social group, right? And I can take this as easy as people I went to school with. So I'm still friends with people I literally went to grade school, middle school, high school. And that's a long time to know people. And so, you can get to know a few things about them. And then, schooling, educational, academia, all the way up forward. And some of the people that I went to school with went into academia. And at the time that I was in school, it was sort of broadly considered that I might go into academia because, things. And, also it was considered that I might go into the intelligence community, that the intelligence there isn't. Anyway, they don't have a great retirement program. So no going out of that. But see, they're not Chiquita's got it. We all die, but if we don't die, I mean, there's apparently, right, the part of you that doesn't die. Because anyway, that's how I would describe like a very similar description to what I feel like right now. Is you got pulled out of your meat suit, and you got put back in before it got pressed, right? So it doesn't quite fit right, and that's what feels so out of order with this. But I noticed and here I go again with this, right? The incompleteness. I noticed the last time that I met with you, and we talked a little bit. When listening back to it, I can easily hear, and I'm a process that I'm totally familiar with, which is that I'm moving on to the next material before I finish speaking the last one. I'm well ahead. I'm 2 or 3 phrases ahead. Same thing I would do as a musician, right? The kind of a difference between amateur musicians and professional musicians, especially in an improvisation context, is that the professional musician, having had more experience, right, and also focused practice, is able to make the changes that they want to change 3 or 4 measures in advance, and that gives them plenty of time then to write an appropriate solo over the top. It's melodically meaningful instead of just going spaz. Most rock guitar players ignore that process, and so they just go with the speed and go spaz. Oh, I got 8 bars to fill, and they fill every single hole and then some. That's not very interesting or even fun to listen to often. But the point being that it's good. It does sound weird, and I apologize for that. When I sort of I thought sort of sounds like I'm trailing off as I'm talking to you, but I've already resolved it in my head. I've already closed that circuit, and I'm moving on to the next one. And throughout my life, the tendency when I talk to people, when I think, is it's and you probably have noticed that even in other streams that I did with people, generally pretty easy to keep them all in order. And as I talk, I'm just able to kind of grab one off the wall, right? That's bouncing around like a pachinko machine. I'm just able to kind of smoothly grab one and put it in the next cue, and then keep going and do it really at a rate that people don't really notice what's happening, right? They don't see that. And then, but if I get caught right now that there's this little tick and a little tremor, it gets caught in between, and it really looks it really looks odd and perhaps a little unsettling. So probably I'm going to stay off the camera just for a little bit longer, not because I'm embarrassed, but because it seems upsetting. Perhaps I'll just noodle on the way out now. One of the things that occurred, and I mentioned this earlier, and I think I was going to start this process because I brought it up, and I said, presumably that person doesn't know about this, and so they're unlikely to hear about themselves. I won't
say their name just in case, that gives me plausible deniability. No, I was talking about somebody completely different. No, but no, it's immediately identifiable. Hopefully, of getting a diagnosis that whose prognosis is, at least on the first, blush of it. I haven't yet spent time with the neurologist or much of that stuff, but it is obvious. Obviously, the nature of it. It's progressive, degenerative. You don't know how long you have it. It affects a variety of this is a thing. I've experienced it already. Again, your vision just doesn't resolve. It's like it's kind of gray there. It's not what you'd imagine, like black, and you're in a black room, you can't see. No, it's kind of normal, except that there's no resolution. There's just sort of nothing there. It's like static, and you don't. The weird thing is, and I got to do a stream on this because it's super important that I do. Right, here's another self-interjection where I derail myself on the train. But I'm so a couple of things have happened. But as I study through this, and I'm not a neurologist, but I play one on TV. No, I have been all my life interested in all kinds of different things, and so I have at least a basic understanding of a lot of different things, and if I need more information, I can always go get it, except for in the last 15 years or so, you can't always rely on that information. Presumably, now that I know, when now I know is all the other information I probably got prior to that was then disinformation or misinformation, because everything we've been told is a lie. So you can just take it there. Maybe it's easier just to not have to unlearn things, right? So we got that going, which is nice. Anyway, so the prognosis for this is a medical condition, right? It's degenerative, and it relates to the myelin sheaths. That's it's the coating that surrounds the nerves. Now, in some weird ironic way, and my wife was right on it right at the outset. As soon as she realized what's happening, and this is a neurological disorder, both of these things, and one taking 3+ years to get a diagnosis, and the other one took about 3 seconds for them to tell me what was happening. But she's all over, wanting to lawsuits and that sort of stuff. But it seems plausible, I'm going to put it that way, that this, again, is largely related to right before my back surgery, and it's been 12, 13 years now. So right before that, again, during this period of time, remember, it's helpful maybe to remember that this is right after the first opioid crisis, I guess, where everybody panicked about how addictive opioids are. It's like, well, duh, we've only known about this for 2,500 years, but thanks for joining along. Glad you read the abstract. Anyway, oh gosh, it's we can't give you opioids for pain because that'll get you addicted. So we'll find something else. And so in that time, what was occurring again was like a pinched 30,000 pinched nerves all at once, right at the back of my spine, right at L5S1. There was we go to this sheath again, right? So it's called the synovial sheath there, and there was a little soft spot, a little weakness in that, and there's a fluid in there, right? The cerebrospinal fluid is there, and it goes between there and the blood-brain barrier, and brings not only blood but a lot of the precursor enzymes and that sort of stuff through, like as a kind of walks it through the security gate of the blood-brain barrier. So yeah, I guess sorry, I derailed myself, and I so freaking hate that. Anyway, so this is a result. This is something that's happened, and I hate it. I hate it for you. I hate it for me. It's kind of terrifying. A little. But there's something. So the short version here, I guess it's too late for that, because I want to line it all up and kind of just go through all the steps and what it is and what it isn't, because it's going to be meaningful, right, to my response to it. But chances are that the prognosis will be not ideal. Put it that way. But, here's the other thing, right? Here's where we are. And I go, what if it's a gift, right? Everybody dies. And we know this.
right? Most people don't get the opportunity to have any heads up. It's either the result of an accident, right? Something they didn't intend to occur, unintended consequences. There you go. Or it's a longer term thing, some other form of, progressive illness or, disorder that ultimately becomes fatal. And one of the things that is certainly true, at least here in the Western society, is that we are just not just bad, but we're, almost psychotically averse to the idea that we die. I mean, here's the basics of it, right? Is that we are designed for eternity. We were, from my viewpoint, we were designed to be immortal. That's what's in our head. That's what's in our blueprint, is to be immortal. And it comes as a terrible shock when we realize that ain't going to happen, right? That we are not going to live to be forever. And we're not even going to live very, very long. It's a pretty short blip by all measures, especially when you're on this side of it. It seems to have gone past much more quickly than intended. But people get very uncomfortable around it, especially, like I said, in Western society. People are very unhappy when you talk about death and dying. They always want you to put a metaphor on it: passing on, moved on, in the next life. He's in a better place. Dearly departed are recently passed, not like he dead. Oh, I hear your uncle died. No, we don't say that, right? And the other thing too is that we're sad about it, right? I mean, certainly there's grief. If you aren't aware of this, I just recently, a number you can measure in weeks, lost my mom, and it's still very painful, and even more so because we had a kind of complex relationship that became increasingly complex over time as I became more aware of the stuff in me. And so I don't know if you want to say healing or whatever term you want to put on it, but I messed up through a process that she didn't even know why, right? So through generations of secrets being kept to protect the family, and some of it is even understandable, right? Why they did it, but yeah, me too. Jennifer is it's dry, and I'll tell the story, I think, better when I don't have this going on, because there is a story there, and I think that there's some potentially healing for other people who have had complicated and not always great relationships with their parents, which I think might include most people, for the simple fact that as humans we don't do love very well. And yet we have this absolute critical, crucial need for it. We will die without it. And yet what we get is tainted, right? So we're starving for an emotional food. It's more than just emotion, but let's skip past that for now. But it's something that we must have. Right, we absolutely must have, and then we sort of dissemble about the whole thing, and we try to sometimes steal it. Right, people try to steal or force love, or they'll take. Many men will resort to if I can't get love, then I'll take fear. Right, and they again mistakenly associate that with respect, and it is neither of those things. I'm going all over the place, and I'm so sorry. That was not my intention. What I really want, right, is that so this process, whatever occurs, whatever the outcome ultimately is. I mean, I have a pretty good idea what it's going to look like. It's really more a matter of time and degree. So, and it's not pretty. It's not going to be fun, and it will probably make some people sad. I'm sure some people will be very glad to see my departure. But it does afford some opportunities, right, that I wouldn't maybe otherwise get. And not to get to it is that is in
Revelation, I think chapter 9, in those days that people cry out for death, and it will evade them. They can't get it. I have thoughts about that too later, but we'll do that later. So, God, it's so great to see you, Notch, man. It's so unfortunate that I'm all over the map here. I'm sorry. It's so unfortunate, some of the things that occurred in our community, because there are such good people in it, right? And it's just, I think it's a real drag. It's a hard thing, man. I don't want to stir up anything, because I don't want to draw it to me, right? I don't even want to draw the attention. I had a conversation with David Reif about some of the tinfoil hat topics that I generally consider verboten, not because I don't think that they're real, and not even because I don't have any information about them, but because it's the kind of thing that draws attention to you, not just from the listening audience, if you know what I mean. If you firsthand, I'll give you can choose to believe or not believe it. There's one thing here. I'm all over the map, but this is sort of how it is. One of the things that's true about this is there's a lot of freedom in it. Right. I don't really give a fuck. I mean, I haven't for a long time really cared so much about what people think, not in a sociopathic sort of way, but I don't let them define what it is I'm supposed to be or do. Right. For example, when I posted on Facebook, right, my initial just sort of reaction, right, as I pondered my life and thought, hey, places I could have done better here, but overall, it's a good ride. Right, here are some things that you might find too. Right. This is a pretty brief couple of paragraphs. And all of a sudden, I got, a bunch of people up my ass. I literally had one friend of mine from Salt Lake City whom I haven't spoken to in months. And frankly, I left Salt Lake City. I lived there for a while. And, I haven't been there in 13, 14 years, right? So, but I keep in touch with, some people, because it's my way. I collect people, I guess. And I was getting to that as a point later. So I guess this is all random, and in spite of the fact that this is exactly what I did not want to do this stream, which was shoot all over the place and just not finish anything. Like part even of this was me telling the story of how I listened back to the other stream that I did, and I really disliked. It was really unsettling for me to hear that I've already gone to the next thought before I even finish saying the words, and so it leaves a lot of things sort of trailing, and it sounds a little, I don't say nutty, but because I'll resolve in my head. And keep moving on, and the voice, my description of the thing trails off because I've already moved on, and it takes me way longer, right, to make those changes now because of the current neurological changes that are occurring. And in fact, you can, I'm sure, hear it now. There are moments where I'll pause and I just can't get it. It's a tick, it's a Parkinson's thing, whatever, and it's certainly a challenge, right? It causes all kinds of problems, like immediately. Like driving is probably off limits. I've been doing it in the last few days, but just out of complete necessity, right? So I'm really super careful about it. But there are moments, right? You check out and you can't see for a minute. That's a little unsettling. And again, the tick in your head, like word finding, it's not even just word finding issues. It's like literally I'm kind of caught there. But there's also the physical stuff, right? I have to have a cane because I'll fall down. I don't have the fine motor control of my hands anymore. So there's a lot of stuff already I can't do, including, for example, I love to cook, and I have some really exceptional kitchen knives, and I can't touch them, right? I can't even go near them right away because I'll absolutely draw blood. And it'll kill me. And the same in some other aspects. If I don't pay attention, if I didn't get a cane, didn't pay attention and make some immediate changes to, my lifestyle, it's going to be, I'll cause harm. Right? I'll cause unintended consequences. And so anyway, if you put up with me, or and kind of here's the thing, God, I'm just so all over the place because there's a whole bunch of stuff, right? But that over past couple of years, obviously we've been meeting together to this channel, stuff like that. And then I took the time off because I got ill with this stupid, intractable vomiting thing, and I couldn't figure out what in the heck. And man, I'd go through everything, and it's so
frustrating too, because the body reacts a little slowly to things. There's a half-life to stuff. And so let's say if you stop one thing and start another thing, it takes a couple of weeks to sort of transition from one to the other. And it's a challenge, of course. And I've got all the labs and stuff that are included, and you're trying to look for the right things, and you're trying to look for patterns, things that will show up that you can go, now what is that, right? And there's some just such strange things about the first one, right? Even though we now have a diagnosis of the ME, I know it's a mouthful, right? The myalgic encephalomyelitis. The person really good at that is David Best. He's had it for 10 years, and so it rolls off his tongue like nothing. And he has that very very rapid progressing, previously unseen, and again, the instant ramifications are huge, which is this latest one, right? Which is the conversion, right? So again, there are different ways, because again, these are sort of broad terms in terms of symptomatic presentation of different issues. And so one doctor might come to a certain conclusion or describe a thing in a certain way, and the other doctor could read that and take a very different meaning from it if he wasn't there. For example, this idea that that it is the functional neurological disorder is a neurological condition, right? But with the right language, if you translate language or get somebody who doesn't really understand the subtleties of that, right? They go, oh, brain damage. Okay, you're brain damaged, or you have a mental illness. Okay, so those words were all kind of semantically similar. It's the order in which you put them that gives it meaning. Well, I guess that's the nature of language, huh? But in this case, right? It is not something like one of the descriptions, right, is that because you're getting a progressive false feedback loop within a closed system, right, it's creating a ghost image, and right, that's what your body's trying to resolve between the two, the actual thing and the other thing, and what's happened is, again, and so this is the part that they leave out there is the fact that there is physiological aspect. Some people want to make it a mental condition. It's like, well, okay, I mean, the brain is the seat of most neurons. Now we know now about the belly brain, right? And there's a lot of interaction that goes on between your abdomen and the outside world and the rest of your body. And in fact, one of the treatments that I'm taking for this for ME, right, is a drug, amitriptyline, that has the way they're treating it is like an abdominal migraine, right? Which sounds wild, but again, actually, it's a thing because if you think through it, right, you get a migraine headache, right? And misfiring cells is what causes that. At least that's kind of the working hypothesis, because we know everything in science, right? They'll tell you that everything, but we sure don't. We know very little. When push comes to shove and you get into like, okay, how do we apply this stuff? What you find in almost every branch and discipline in science, and I know I have, almost every single one. What happens is our level of understanding is so shallow, and yet just like barely. But what they do is, there's a difference between level of understanding and the ability to accurately observe, right? That over time things behave in a certain way under certain conditions, and you can make some predictions based on that because they behave in a similar way under certain conditions over. And if you track that and write it down, then you can again be pretty consistent. Like I'm pretty aware that if I take naphtha or like gasoline, right, put it down and let it open up and get some oxygen, because that's necessary, and some space, right, and then introduce another flame source, it's going to ignite, right? It might even deflagrate, right? So depends on the conditions. That's a known thing, and so when we write those down, when we get a little bit more detailed, we call those, right, physical laws, right, or scientific laws of physics. Those laws aren't because we passed them and we wrote them and we said, okay, it's going to need to work like this and it has to do this and it has to meet all these specifications. No, my friend, that's not how it worked. It's the opposite. You observe it for a while and you go, huh, that's pretty interesting. All right. And then you begin to, do tests, and those tests are called experiments, no matter what Nathan Oakley would have you believe. His semantics cause 5 years of unnecessary bullshit. Because he can't, in his head, he has to jump up and down because he can't differentiate between experiment and scientific experiment. It's like, I go in the kitchen and experiment all the time. What do I call that? I don't get to use that word. I don't get to use the word experiment that we've been using for, 400 or 500 years because you don't like it, because it pisses you off when people use it outside of the context of scientific experiment, right? That's why I don't like people. I love people, but I don't like people. And here I am all over the map again, never getting to the actual point, which frustrates the fuck me. Stephanie, you're going to lead me into some spots here that I'm not sure I wanted to go. And I see Mark Bloom, who, by the way, is one of the most brilliant minds I'm in contact. Like, every time I throw an idea over his wall, he'll come back in like a day, really ridiculously short a period of time. And he's got like 2 full, master's thesis ready to go that argue both sides of the point, right? So it's like, what? Is brilliant and an amazing resource. And Mark, I would love to make, in the coming days, if I can, get back together with you and make use of some of that manic energy as well, because I have some ideas. I got some ideas on how we can, if I got the express ticket, then I'm just going to take it on myself to, one of the things when I began looking back over the story of my life is that I started, we make this thing is that not everyone dies, but not everybody lives. And from the very beginning, I just jumped in with both feet and had a really remarkable run at the beginning. And then up over time, you live a little less every day because then you start trying to protect the things that you have. And that's just an exercise in failure and madness, right? You just have to go with the universe. If the universe is trying to take you in a place and you're trying to fight it, yeah, brother, that's a long road to hoe. You're gonna hurt yourself, right? Or get hurt. You're gonna check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? So if the universe, and I've often said, without even taking the name universe, in this case specifically dad, right? If there's something that he's asking of you to do, you might as well just, like, if he says, if you, like, for example, you go, hey, you know what? I'll do anything you want me to do, but I won't go to Africa. You might as well just go pack your bags right now, because that's exactly what you're going to do. Because if you have that relationship with dad, his interest isn't so much, Africa. It's whether or not you'll let something get between you and him. There's something that you're holding on to that comes in between you. And so there's always going to be that dynamic there. So people who have that relationship know exactly what I'm talking about, because we're human and there are things that we want to hang on to. And, dad is pretty consistent. And so he would prefer to have the things that have us to be the way that he originally designed us, not the way that we came in and, put some Bondo in our life and to fix up the broken parts. And then we're mad when he tries to tear it apart. We're like, hey, I worked hard on that. It's like, yeah, but that's why it sucks. That's why you did it. That's why it's a crappy. It's because it's yours. Let me put the original manufacturer's part in there. And so, yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm just all over the place. And hey, Jennifer, good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Here's one. I want to just touch on it though before I forget, and because I'm sorry I'm all over the place, and just have to bear with me. But when I wrote that thing on Facebook and I said, people went, hey, what are you talking about? And again, I feel like I have, I'm going to be able to say this. No, as soon as I say this, somebody's going to tip him off and he's going to come and he's going to listen, right? Like, because I'm talking about, looking back at the year history and, it was not morose in any way, just, and in fact, he commented on this later on. Good there. But, so his comment, hey, is everything okay? Like, this is like, and it's all dark and blah. I'm like, really? And he's like, call me, reach out. I'm like, yeah, whatever, call you. Okay. Like, knock yourself out. And then another friend, right, same way, like instantly starts calling 5, 6, 7 times in a row. Now, I was asleep, and so I turned my phone off all the time because it's not that important to me. So I leave it off, and so I don't even know that anybody's called until really the next morning. But I see that my buddy has blown up my phone with all kinds of messages, and then because I didn't respond, he calling my kids, making sure I'm okay. It's like, dude, how long have you known me? What do you? Come on, man. And I appreciate that they're concerned, right? But then the first guy, I call him at his behest. So the next day, I call him and I say, hey, what's going on? And so he tells me, he says, yeah, I saw this thing, and I was concerned. And I'm like, well, I guess there's probably cause for concern. I got some pretty unwelcome news medically, right? And after going through a period of time that having conditions that I didn't much like, and then I suddenly got a seizure, and that'll put you down and shake you up a little bit. And so I go to the doctor, and they take pictures, and they say you might want to get your shit in order. And I go, okay. Okay. So, like I said, that's, for many people, it's, oh my God, it's a death sentence. And for me, it's shocking, certainly, but, there's a moment there going, well, everybody dies, and, it's an opportunity to at least see it coming. It's like, many people, a car accident or, any number of unintended, instant disambiguation situations, right? Where, you exist, and then the next moment you don't. That's not, apparently, that's not, the ticket he's got for me. So it's a different thing. And it tests my spirit in certain ways that, like, that things I'll never get to see or do, I kind of miss that. I think there's a temptation, right, to you want to settle some scores. I don't have that. But, the thing I was thinking is there are things that I won't get to see that, was kind of on my bucket list. I wanted to see or do, all that kind of stuff. So, there's a bit of bittersweet there. But then immediately I go, wait a minute. If the next thing I know really is on the other side, if I'm with Dad, how much cooler is that place going to be than here? Like, this will be ghetto, man. It's like, well, why do you want to visit Cleveland? Right? Right. When you can go to Paris. I mean, I'm sure Paris is a shithole too, but I'm just making a metaphor here, that, much of, the way that we consider the world around us is the distance between, the circumstances and what we wish they were. Right. So much of our sadness, for example, and I think Nachiketa could probably agree or concur with this, that, and again, he's probably one of the better qualified people to speak on comparative religion. He's got a pretty good take on it in a way that most scholars don't, right? Because they have their ass they have to kiss, and they have to toe the line. And so if they don't say the thing that they have to say, then they don't get to go on. And so, that's how they go. Anyway, so yeah, I got a wake up call. That's right. So yeah, basically, and again, this is kind of premature, but again, this is a seizure that occurred, overamped, and typically they would say it's overamped because of a nerve thing, like nervousness, like that. There you go with the mental thing, but really, in this case, because again we're dealing with delamination of the myelin, that seems to be the kind of the core message. Now, obviously, there's going to be neurological commands that go back and forth, and that's part of the nervous system, right? So it's a weird mishmash of things. And so, like I said, the fact that I have now in just a matter of weeks gotten two competing diagnoses on the same system, right? The nerve system, the nervous system, all told, especially like motor cortex areas and some of the resolve stuff, and with the delamination, that's not a great prognosis. Got to tell you, it's but I mean, cancel some of your Amazon deliveries, right? Because they don't have to keep coming forever. But again, here's an opportunity, perhaps, right? And certainly, my reaction in all of this has not been fear, right? Like, oh, well, okay, well, really, I get these press tickets, woo, right? Like, I mean, not that I didn't enjoy the ride. It's quite lovely, thank you. And there's some very truly wonderful people, if you give them the opportunity to tell you who they are, instead of you trying to force yourself on them and tell them who you are. If you just take the time to discover, the world is filled with fascinating, delightful, wonderful people, and many of them will make you delightful food as well. It's a big bonus. I'm a big fan. So I didn't mean to come here and discombobulate everything. That's not the point, obviously. I have, determined that I think it's time. No, that's wrong. I didn't make any. No, there's no choice there. I have been getting seriously nudged by Dad over the last 4 or 5 months, really kind of since my birthday at the end of November, to kind of take up the torch again and start talking. And I was like, I'm certainly not ready for that. And then I got, the point was I took the time off so I could get healed up. And instead of getting healed up, I've got now another one, right? So I got 2 things wrong instead of one. And then also, my mom and my sister and my niece all died in short succession and without prior notice. And so, that'll leave you feeling a little blue, so, oh, you know what? I keep missing this. I want to go back to this because I want to make this point. So my buddy, right, he sees me write this stuff. And so he wants me to talk to him. So I do, I make the point and I call him and we, like, hey, we haven't talked for a while. And he's like, yeah, it seems, this stuff. And it's kind of dark. I'm like, dark? What are you talking about? Oh, death. And I'm like, okay. I mean, like, every day at sunshine, darkness seems like a thing. I don't know, but keep going, right? And so, his remarks were that, he was concerned. He saw it and he was concerned, so he wanted to talk to me. Now, not because, and here's the strange thought, not because he was concerned about my health and well-being, but, how it might affect people. Like, what? Are you really fucking gatekeeping me, bro? Seriously, somebody who I reached out and contacted me because I was saying things that made people uncomfortable. And oh my God, you're talking about death. And then when they filled in the blank, and I said, well, what did you take from it? What? And they said, well, if you're if you look around and at the end of your life, you're kind of looking back and you see the things that you might have missed or done better and enjoyed these things and that sort of stuff. I'm like, yeah, okay, I didn't stutter. That's what I meant. And those are the things I'm saying. So good, I did good. And of course, that's like, well, no, you're talking about death. I'm like, well, everybody dies. What? I hate to say it, but what are you, retarded? Like, what's going on here? We can't talk about that, right? We have to put these, children's words on it. We talk about kid gloves, man. Like, again, it's irritating. Like, I don't know, because this, I guess it's a conversation to be had, and probably even deeper at greater length, because but I do think it's important, right, the way we approach it, because most people are terrified. They're so afraid they can't even say the words. And in this case, again, it's made him so uncomfortable he had to call me. Haven't talked to him in 15 years. Didn't bother to reach out to me either, right? I mean, my fingers aren't broken, but neither are his. And he's got concerns now because I openly said, hey, I got some, I don't think I was this direct, but I said, basically, hey, I got some, bad medical news, and I don't know exactly how long I've got, so I want to make the best of it, basically, like that, right? And that there were people that, I think I could have done better in some other circumstances because I was focused on the wrong things. I'm chasing certain things down, and my vision is different now. So I mean, I'm sure you can go find it if you want. If you know who I am and how to get there, you'll figure it out. It's on Facebook. It's still there. I didn't take it down. But I obviously don't. If you find the thing and you see who the person is, don't harass them. But that's not what we're doing here. But because it was more than one, right? Another friend of mine, same thing. They want to talk, right? Hey, is everything okay? Right, everything okay at home? But in the first case, they legit, like, really were trying to fucking gate check me. I'm like, really? Like you like, really? Your concern is for the people, the air quotes there, other people out there that because they follow me and because they from time to time like the things I say for whatever reason that is. Anyway, so he doesn't have a following, right? And then, but it doesn't take the time to really understand why. He's never that I know of come and listen to the program or knows anything about it other than he heard secondhand through the grapevine, hey, what's Baldini doing these days? Oh, I don't know, he's not doing this, thing, blah, 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 and
it's like he's gonna get him. He's not checking up. I mean, at the beginning, I kind of say it, but this purpose is not there to check up and see how I'm doing with my health or how my emotional health might be under the circumstances, especially getting a bunch of bad news in a row, right? Like when your sister and then your niece, you were very close to, pass away suddenly under, unknown circumstances, and then my mom, right? And while my mom and I are talking about, Angela's sudden passing, she's still at this time. She's just had surgery, and she's minor. Should have been very minor surgery, but she's still fairly lucid, other than the pain medication. So we're talking, but obviously she's upset and distraught over the loss of my niece, and but then. So we're having this moment there where I, expressing, grief with her, and I'm comforting her because I have a tendency to delay that sort of stuff. I guess I get the news and then I sit with it for a minute, and so same with Angela. I mean, I just heard that she, the last I talked to her was right after her mom passed. She was in Arizona, and she was making some positive changes. She's starting to get her shit together a little bit more, and love to see that. And then the next day, the next I hear is the year later, and that they got a call from police in Detroit, and trying to track down family members of a person that they found deceased in their city. And so without any knowledge, we none of us had any knowledge of her being or visiting Detroit or having anything to do with that. I think we can, and I hate to do this, right, because probably indicate that there was some unsavory things going there, the seedy underbelly lifestyle that she was in, and it puts you at risk. So as much as I appreciate that, the other stuff is, it didn't go down in a way that you can feel particularly good about. And then right after that, right, my mom's passing, and the way that occurred, it really, again, it was unnecessary. It was she'd been fighting allopathic, doctors and hospitals for, 12, 13 years now. Really longer than that, because she had some stomach surgery like 30 years ago. And so, thereafter, there's changes that occur, and so they got to monitor all that stuff. So, but they're just, again, it's not the topic for this, because this has nothing to do with what I even intended to be here at all with. But they treated her like a resource, right? Like they weren't at all interested in what was going on with her. They saw dollar signs and what's a procedure I can do on her that she might tolerate, that I can make some money from. And she has these complaints, and we don't find the source of those complaints, so they're going to tell her it's in her head. But hey, we're willing to do this, right? So then they try to sell her on some expensive therapy that it's not even going to, like, again, I'm not a doctor, but I know the basics of biology, and I look at some of the stuff and go, oh, that man, I mean, this is obviously theft, right? They try to make somebody go, oh, you need the surgery to do this because otherwise, blah. And you look at it and you go, no, come on, no, that's just no, and they take advantage of people, and especially my mom as she got older, and she, she's trying to take care of her health, and so she's trying to be in some ways proactive, and then she gets mad at them, right, because they're not in any way interested in her, because she grew up in. Anybody that knows the generation before mine, right? They were the World War II, babies, the kind of the boomers. So they all grew up with gardens, food. You grow your food because you don't know what's going to happen, right? So you grow your own food. Well, they all did that, and so up until the day she died, my mom had a pretty substantial and very healthy and productive garden, right? So and understood that what you eat. Is the building blocks of what you made of, I mean, the old thing, you are what you eat, right? So that's certainly part of it, and they ignored that, right? It would infuriate them when she would try to relate to them that certain foods do certain things, and she notices, better result with this, and they're like, they don't give a shit. They just want to write the pill and get their bonus for that. And then, the pill, enough pills didn't do it. And she needs the situation to be addressed. So she agrees to go in and do the
again, what should have been a pretty minor surgery, more laparoscopic, and she didn't bounce. Right, it's what happened, and she after about 2 weeks, she was going downhill for sure, and they called in hospice, and then shout out to my brother who's a fucking rock star, so as much of the grief as I had, and I can't tell you the pain of not be, your mom is dying, right? And already we have obviously I was going to say we have a past, a history. I think that's obvious. Everybody does with their parents. I have a history with my mother. I fucking hope so. Anyway, no, our relationship hasn't always been great, and for reasons, but it's also not always openly antagonistic and hostile. The truth is that my mom and I adored each other. We loved our wacky sense of humor, and both really wicked good in the kitchen, and loved serving people in that way, and we loved games, and so similar in a lot of ways, right? And she's very, very clever and very compassionate. One of the things during the memorial service is just how many people that she took care of in that little town, in Texas, and she was cooking all the time. I don't think she ever left the kitchen in the last 25 years, making food and taking it to people for all kinds of stuff. And we're not talking just what you would think of as just your potluck garbage. It wasn't elevated. Her food wasn't elevated to the point that I like to get into with presentation and all that stuff. But in some ways, that made it even better. Right? Is the comfort food, like out of this world. And I'm not even gonna tell you about it because you'll be so jealous, and there's no point. I can't give you her food. I can make she always said at the end that it was she thought some of it was better, but I think she's just being nice because that's what parents do. Anyway, all this to go, but she was strong-willed, right? And so she kept telling them there's a problem, and they wouldn't really take it seriously until it became very apparent that she was right. There was a problem, but by then it's too late. And it's the weirdest thing is how I describe several different things now. Is that how did it happen that this thing? And it's like, well, slowly at first, slowly, and then all of a sudden, and it's very similar to what happened with Mom. Is that it was slow, and then boom, right? There was just nothing to be done. Couldn't save her at that point because all the damage had been done before that. Yeah. So, God, I hate that. My brain just like it's like a little blip, little electrical jolt, and you can feel it. I can actually feel it, and then suddenly the thought gets like, woo, I can watch it fly away. Like, damn it, I hate that. So I'm more than a little miffed at allopathic medicine generally. I mean, obviously, big pharma sucks, but in this case, I can say with some level of confidence, right, that they, if not outright, they played a major part in my mom's passing. Right, it was entirely unnecessary. If they had left her the fuck alone, and really addressed the things that she needed addressed, which were fairly minor, but they probably could have been addressed through vitamins and that sort of stuff, and what she was eating. But they got mad because that's how she wanted to address it. Right? She's like, I don't like taking the pills. Like she did her whole life. She did it just like everybody else. But again, she gets older and she's like, hey, I want to go back to more of the home, natural stuff. Feels better about it. Like. For good reason, doesn't trust big pharma, and and looking for other ways to manage these symptoms, and even willing to, to suffer a little bit, right, to endure some discomfiture, as a choice of taking the natural supplements versus a chemical one, and they don't like that, right? They don't like it when you have. I can tell firsthand. My wife knows that too. I mean, she's indicative of that as well. Is that when they're trying to, I get it. It's a difficult profession, and we could go here all day about the difficulty and what's necessary for, to work in healthcare at that level and all that sort of stuff. Okay, I get it. But on the other hand, I have several different industries I can work in at a high level too. And, I'm not usually responsible for killing people, just saying. The number one cause of death in the U.S. isn't a poorly mixed record. You know what I mean? I'm just thought I'd point that out. All right. Anyway, I listened. So you know what? You're gonna love this turnaround and tie up. All right. I listened to the last stream that I did primarily because it was mostly music. I just wanted to hear a couple of the changes because they're always, as I say, they're always ephemeral. It's always just entirely improvised, and sometimes I'll throw something out that I'm like, hey, kind of like that, and I might want to work it up. It's rare because just the way of it, and also I'm very, like I said, I'm not good right now. I haven't played really at all more than just a few hours. I mean, pretty much every moment that I've played in the last 8 years has been on a stream. That's the only time I ever play. So I probably should spend some time practicing and rehearsing, and I got some stuff I want to do. Again, one of the things about facing this imminent thing much more closer than you anticipated, right, is that I want to transcribe some things. That there's a whole bunch of stuff that musically I wrote that would just be lost, right? And it seems unfortunate. So record it, right, and make some record of. And I say record, not like make a record, although that'd be fine too. But you know what I mean. Have a record, have a for posterity's sake, that we did this thing, and because some of them are pretty good, right? And beyond that, I think some of them have a message in them, or at least some. A bit of enlightenment, although I have found in the years since that some of those little bits of wisdom were like little time capsules of information to give to me later. I gave myself information later by burying it in the song that I wrote, 25 years ago. It's an odd thing to bump into that a bunch of different times, which leads me to some other stuff. I am compelled to do a few more of the old style research videos on high strangeness and that sort of thing, because I bumped into a couple of things this last week that I've been generally trying to avoid, like the plague. Some things, right, when you deal with them, you get the dirt on your hands. It just sort of seems to draw it, and I don't want it. And I don't have time for that shit right now. I got plenty of other things going on, but there are, a couple of things that would be in the high strangeness category that we often don't talk about because they sound, frankly, kind of crazy, and if you accepted them the way they're presented, it probably would be, you'd be, you could be forgiven for thinking it's a little off the ranch. And on the other hand, when I was forced to confront it, at least some of it, that I had to spend at least enough time to see what was going on, and then it draws it. It draws the attention of it. It makes more of it, and I don't want it. Right? I don't like it. But there are times I think those things are also necessary to take a look at. Is a thing that just occurred in the last 24 to 48 hours where I just went, oh my God, really? Like I saw a situation I should have figured out a long time ago, and it would have been so again, there's a multitude of things that we need, at least I've been wanting to talk about, right? One of them is that in our current culture, right, it's a big race to the bottom for being a victim, right? So the bigger victim you can be, it makes you untouchable. You can pretty much do whatever you want if you're the victim. The accepted narrative victim, I guess. If you're anywhere right of wackadoodle hard left, then you're all the bad words. And you have an affinity for snappy Euro trash or snappy European dresswear from the early and mid 1930s. That's the accusation that you have certain predispositions and whatnot. All right, so I have messed this all up.
teased some things I didn't mean to, and didn't do some of the things I meant to, and I'm ever so sorry about that. Just obviously, this kind of a offshoot of that. But yeah, the victim things, the victim culture, not Chiquita. Yeah. So, that's the thing is like people go, oh, don't be a victim or whatever. And it's like, well, there's an absolute difference between claiming to be a victim and recognizing when someone has wronged you. Like, if they take your shit, and steal from you and then go, oh, don't play the victim. Well, I guess the law calls me a victim of the crime because I'm the injured party. Do I feel like victimized? Do I feel like I take a victim status? Fuck no. I mean, not me, right? But it is rampant these days. In fact, the bigger victim you can make yourself, the bigger headline you get, and that's the stock in trade that Juicy Smellit was trading on. He was hoping to score, right? Because of that, it's big. Make yourself a victim, and everybody's got to go, oh, you poor baby, did bad things to you. And in his case, it was half baked because he's not very bright, and he thought that he would get coverage. He did for a while because he's good friends with Cory Booker and Kamala Harris. Weird like that, huh? But because they were right on top of it. In fact, that was the basis of them passing federal legislation in the U.S., nationwide legislation, making it illegal, outlawing lynching. Now, I understand, as do you, I think, that murder in any fashion is still mostly illegal in this country. There are justifiable homicides, I'll give it that. The he just needed killing rule. I like it. Justifiable homicide. But most of them aren't. And of course, there's all this just ridiculous, preposterous ideology that says, hey, if we make the gun laws stronger, then the criminals will have to respect those. Okay. And it's disingenuous. It has nothing to do about criminals. It has to do about keeping you from being armed. Because, well, if a government needs to take your guns, they're planning to do something that they don't want to be shot at. So I'm just going to put that out there, that all this gun legislation is simply the precursor to our own government here in the United States preparing to do some things that they know will be make some people unhappier than Dylan Mulvaney on the side of a Bud Light can. So they have already, again, I'm bouncing. If it was real, it would be in the news. Yeah, I don't think so, because they own the newspapers as well, Sparkplug. But okay, keep going with your bad self. Anyway, point being here, I haven't made a point all day, so who am I kidding? No, the part of the aspects of this, right, is they want to divide and conquer, right? They want you to be at odds with your neighbor. And that is because we're herd animals. And now I'm not going to go into evolutionary biology here because, I don't really do evolution, microevolution in terms of changes and adaptation, sure. But no, I'm fully intelligent design on that one. Anyway, so as J. Bro points out, he made the metaphor numerous times. He called us sheep, right? And it's not lost on me, right? There is a metaphor there, many of them that work really well, and one of them being that we tend to behave like herd animals, which is, part of the thing of the herd animals is being a herd. You get together, and when the predator comes, right, there's a bunch of you, and you put your horns out, and you run off, right? That's what you do. So as and what are they trying to do? How do they get their meal? Right? They find one that's weak or sick or alone, and they separate them from the herd, and then they eat them. So it starts to become really strange, isn't it? How, in light of the fact that we have, and again it gets into woo territory, but it's the point here being, right, that we have a electromagnetic field that we generate around us. That electromagnetic field, not only is it possible, but it seems to be that's part of its design to interact with the world around it, including, in fact, and especially other people, right? So this is where I think comes from the expression, I got a gut feeling about it. You sure did.
right? Because there are more neural pathways that go to and from, that go from your gut to your head than the other way, right? Which indicates that you're receiving, or at least the premise here is that it seems most plausible solution is that you are receiving information from the outside world and transmitting that to your brain. It's like it's an antenna, and so you need that. You're also pushing information out there, so you're also broadcasting, right? So FFID, right? Friend or foe ID. You know when somebody is near you and they're giving you a bad vibe, right? That you can get a chance to adjust and take care of that situation. So that's a big part of it, right? We have this interactive bit that's in our guts, and also the electromagnet part is in our heart. Okay, so that's in our chest, and it goes about a meter in every direction. Right? Well, that's about 3 feet, and all the way across is about 6 feet. Well, how far do they want you to stay away from each other during the shamdemic? About 6 feet. Right. So that you cannot get in close proximity to people and share their vibe. One of the things, and again, I'm sure that everyone here, I would guess, has had the experience, right, where you have both watched a television show at home, presumably, right? Each of you, there may be one or two that didn't, but for the most part, I think everybody here has at one point or another watched a television show in their home. And you've probably also watched a movie, right? A Hollywood production in your home on, VHS, way back in the day, or, video or whatever your media is. You've watched a movie in your home, the very comfort of your own home, with the real good popcorn that you made yourself with real butter. You don't have to pay $22 for 24 ounces of sugar water. And you don't have other people's kids screaming and snotting on you. You might. That might be your thing. You just invite the neighbors over, which I recommend, actually, inviting the neighbors over. But I'll get back to that. But there is a very different, substantially different experience from watching a movie in your home and watching that same movie in the theater. And I'm not talking about just the big screen and the big sound, right? Do all that equal, and the difference is the people. Right, you're watching it with the other people. Now, weird that a movie is kind of a spectator sport, but again, think about it. When do people get the most excited about things? Sports ball, they go crazy. I just keep thinking if they'd only go that crazy over spiritual wins, right? Spiritual battles, and we I almost you watch them from a distance, but. There's a doorway here. I'm flirting around, and I don't think I want to go through it yet. So, because I think it's an important topic, but I want to be ready, because if I'm going to draw this bullshit to me, I want to have my ducks lined up so I can freaking shoot them. Well, I'll hint. I'm going to do exactly what I just said I wasn't going to do, which is. Kind of tease a little bit of what I want to talk of it, right? Is that there are a couple of topics that I have stayed well clear of because they're freaking nutty and they're uncomfortable and there's so little proof and they just even talking about it seems nutty. So I leave it alone. And then even worse, what happened is a number of years ago, there was a person, I saw a video of a person who seemed, they were on that topic, but they seemed very lucid and they were talking about some physics things and some technologies that I understood. And in fact, the only way you would probably know about those technologies is that you had exposure to them, direct exposure to what it does. And again, I'm not trying to be too weird here, but I do work in technology sector, and there are things, and people do like to protect their intellectual property. But there's also aspects of it, right, that I guess I'll just put it out there to this degree anyway, is that as much as you are capable of, we have the what they say 5 sights, right? Your sight and your sound and your taste and your sight, sound, taste, heat,
shit, my brain's not even working because I'm trying to stay on task to the other one. But anyway, so you say they have the sixth sense, but they're actually more than that. I'll maybe go 7 on that. But the point being here, right, is that you have your senses that you are sensing the outside world, right, to make sense of what's going on around you. One of the things, again, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I'll start talking in a manic way and then you won't understand a word I'm saying and it's pointless. So I'll try to calm down here. All right. So within your nervous system, the way that, one of the things that we don't know, so everybody is, all up into, the esoteric stuff and getting into alchemy and all this sort of thing. But what out there? So there are things, all right, that people claim happen to them, and sometimes it's a challenge, right? Because the thing that they're saying sounds nutty, and if they present nutty, right, especially like, for example, they're homeless, or they're have a high propensity to take drugs, that sort of thing. They seem, scattered, or even sort of like what I'm talking about now is sort of like unusual. So obviously my presentation is somehow interfered with. Well, it's gotten interfered with by a neurological condition, right? That can be caused by a number of different things. So it's not uncommon. For example, you guys are familiar with San Francisco or LA, and you see a lot of the homeless people walking down there, and they very frequently will be seeming to carry on a conversation with some invisible person or persons. And it's very easy to just dismiss them as being nuts, and I'm sure that there is a level of mental illness that comes into play here. But one of the really intimidating and scary things about even that topic, and I'm talking about targeted individuals, is that the amount of resources that it would take and perfect timing to do so much of it is just unthinkable. It's just like the more I try to do the math on it, I go, it's just not possible, right? But then you see some stuff that is not only, what you see the result, and you see the thing happen, and you're like, wait, what did that just, wait, what? And then and so it's there, and then you're like, wait a minute, now how do you square that, right? How do you square that shit? Because there's some shit in there that I don't want to open up that can of worms, but I didn't kind of have a working hypothesis that might make it less crazy. And but so, I monitor things going on around us, and news is one of those things that'll depress you really badly. But I'm kind of looking for the signs, right? I'm just kind of paying attention to what happens out there. And one of the things that has occurred with increasing frequency, and to such a degree that it now openly makes the news, whereas for about 40 years, if anybody even breathed the words or made a suggestion that the supernatural were involved in any sort of criminal activity, bad things happen. You lose your job, right? Nobody takes you seriously, that sort of stuff. So for many, many years, in both law enforcement and the mental health community, they had a policy of don't engage with it at all. Don't get it in your life. Don't play just like let them know they're crazy if they hear voices, whatever. And so they use this to essentially sort of on the liminal space and kind of moving through talking about his time as a psychiatrist for the state and his experiences when you ask people who are schizoaffective or have dissociated ID that the results of that are not at all what he was told it would be. Like they're crazy, and so you're going to get this response, and what he gets instead is very different. In fact, the very opposite of what he was taught at school. And then he finds out that it's not just that one person; it's like almost everywhere. And then he talks to a few other providers. People are very nervous in talking about it because you find out that like pretty much any area of academia over the last embarrassed, written down on a rail, or worse, right? Bad things might happen. The stronger your evidence, the
more you can expect the reprisals to be. So many people have lost, their career, some of their lives on things when they show that the truth is other than what has been presented to us. And this is no exception in terms of the healthcare field, that people who believe themselves to be interacting with supernatural beings and entities. Again, they're very strict. States usually have a very strict policy of how to talk about that stuff, to diffuse it, decentralize it, make it part, divorce it from their belief system. Again, I won't steal this thunder. It's a lot of fascinating interviews, and you can go back and listen to this guy. It's pretty easy to find, and he's got some great stories, right, about how. But right away, he begins to test what they were saying, and finds very clearly that the things that they were saying absolutely cannot be true. And what's more unsettling, right, is when you then realize that when you're talking to people or interacting with people who have experience in dealing with things like targeted individuals, or schizoaffective disorder, they hear voices in their head, or the owl outside their window, and then turns out it's not an owl. So yeah, there's stuff behind it, right? When they begin to describe what is supposed to be, we're told they're schizoaffective illusion. They're out of their fucking minds. It's really a chemical imbalance in their brain. It's making them paranoid, and so they're hallucinating. They're hallucinating sights and sounds that are not there. And if they only had the right chemical balance, we could get the right chemical soup floating in them. Then they would be all better, and they wouldn't hear these voices that tell them to do sometimes unsettling things. Well, then talking about unsettling, if you take a time to talk to them and do what you're not supposed to do, and engage with them about who are these entities and what did they say, you will find pretty quickly that the consistency is not just high; it's almost a verisimilitude. And so then you very quickly realize why they don't want you to make that connection. So don't talk to it, right? Don't engage it, because as soon as you do, you're going to realize that it's very real, and you probably just fucked up and opened a door. You better hope that you're good enough with your architectural and construction seals to reseal that door, because once you cut a door in a wall, the structural integrity is gone, right? And you are everything changes. So we have a variety of people. Well, I think I want to just touch on this, and I want to wrap it up right for here and just go. I need to reset. I see I have I still have so many challenges with this neurological stuff. It's so difficult. I have been watching, news and that sort of stuff. Obviously, I pay attention. I don't talk much about it anymore since the PP show went away. I may do something different in that regard, and good on them for doing their own version of that. Whatever. Anyway, there is a phenomenon that's occurring, especially here in the U.S. And I realize that. I need more data here, but it's the kind of data I don't like looking at. I don't like looking at bad things, man, especially when there's a lot of it. It doesn't help. Like I can know all the tricks the enemy plays. It doesn't help me, right? That's, I've seen it, a number of times, and so maybe there are times that it is helpful to be aware, know thy enemy, that sort of stuff. But then other times it just seems unwise, right? To get anywhere near that stuff. And I agree, the Unabomber story is not only interesting, it's fascinating. And, here's where you get in trouble again. You go, other than but a couple of notable places, most, I would say I agree with most of what he said. And much of it is just observation anyway. So without the philosophy behind it, just the observations are accurate. And that's probably what they were more scared of than anything else. And pay attention now, because you got the shooters now that they have the manifesto, but they won't show it to you because they say it would be profoundly dangerous to the public. Really? Huh. So yeah, so they're saying that they believe that the writings of who they claim is a crazy person, right? A completely nutters person. They wrote some shit down, their manifesto, and rather than mocking it or saying, oh, here are the dangers and look at this, what this wacko thought, they find it so profoundly dangerous that they could not allow it to go into the public. That should tell you. It suggests a number of things that would be very untoward of your government. And I see there's another conversation to have as well, because I keep wanting to just point out the obvious, that it's only about 4 steps to get from if you do what they tell you, or they don't, or you don't. But if you do what they tell you, if you do it in the way they prescribe, you basically. Bottom line is, you are, by their own declaration, you're an enemy of the state. You are their enemy. And it's like, shouldn't somebody from philosophy class at least have brought up this as a thing, going, hey, does anybody notice? Yeah, no. Because again, the owners who own things, they just own everything, right? So they own the politicians, they own the news, they own the musicians, they own the hardware, they own the tech, they own and build the keyboard that I'm using right now, electricity through mechanical means. So all you got to do is have a mechanical keyboard that generates that tiny little electricity from crystals every time you type it. So now it's got enough energy to store and do all kinds of computational stuff within silica, because that's how computers are made. Basically, yeah, your all your hardware can spy on you. And now, I mean, it's just the rabbit hole goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Here's what I'm going to get. I'm going to leave you with this, because it's so unsettling, right, to me, that because in part, I guess, because it didn't occur to me in that way, right, is that as we get closer and closer to what appears to be comporting almost, 1-to-1, as one might expect, I suppose, to the narrative as exposed in the book of Revelation. That narrative, although uses a bunch of big words and a lot of imagery, so far more accurate than CNN, New York Times, and Fox News all put together. So we have that going for us, which is nice. And they want so. I'm a big fan of J-Bro. I make no apologies for that. Jesus is, to me, the most fascinating and remarkable of all, humans, because he's God that became human of his own volition, to be, horribly treated and in the worst possible way, all the way up to not just sticks and stones will hurt my bones, but a scourging that nearly took his life, and then they just took his life. They just tore him apart, right? I still find it interesting that people really get mad at just the name of Jesus, right? And they know nothing about it. It's like they either go, oh, he's a good teacher, right? Or then they're mad at Christianity and Christians, but they don't know anything about what the actual teachings are. And the saddest part is that same applies to Christians, like most of them. As a group, I can go pull people off the street right now, and they claim to be Christian, and they don't know any of the. They've never met Jesus. They would very much dislike him because of their religion, right? So, but I follow closely the words of Jesus, and because he said some remarkable thing. Well, one of the things he said, specifically dealing with, because a lot of people are interested in this now, right, is that he did make some remarks on. They said, "Master, what are the signs of your return?" Right, you're going to come again, and this is even before he'd been not just translated, but this is even before he had been crucified. So apparently they'd had conversations. The disciples aren't as dumb as they're kind of written out to be. I mean, I'm sure that they, like everybody, when you get it, when God does something, you're like, oh God, of course, I was so dumb. That's a real thing, right? But so he says, Jesus, right? They say, what are the signs that you're coming and you're soon return and stuff? And so he gives some things. The first thing he says is, "Be not deceived." Very first thing out of his mouth. I find that fascinating. Be not deceived, because apparently he thought that it was at risk, that we were at risk of being deceived. I think later on Paul says that they'll be sent a strong delusion that they should believe a lie. And then so if you're on that side of that equation, that'd be, I think, a pretty difficult one to debunk or whatever. You would if it's at a supernatural level of deception, that's going to be hard to break through. And now they're doing it almost to that degree with just strictly electronics. Esoteric electronics a little bit, but keep in mind, I know like a little bit of this stuff, and I live in a neighborhood where it gets tested. Try to keep up on what the current research is in technology, because they're not going to tell you what the fruition is, right? Because for the first few years it's a novel item, and so the enemy doesn't have it, and so it gives them an advantage. So for the first few years, you're never going to hear anything about it. The only time you hear about it is later when they're showing off. But it gives you some insight to what's going on. So one of the things that I've been watching, I'm sorry, I'm going over too much stuff here because it's so ugly and it's so like I don't want to touch it, right? So in the last, I'd say 18 months-ish, probably 2 years, but specifically 18 months or so, there's a huge spike of I hate even trying to self-censor myself because of YouTube or anything like that, and I don't want to do it, so I'm going to say it, and it's going to probably shut my channel down. But so there has been a rash of familial murder-suicides, and a lot of parents taking the lives of their own children before doing themselves. And you would probably be forgiven if you thought that this is maybe some young mother, right? Postpartum depression, maybe drugs, something like that. We've seen this in the past, and it's a terrible, horrible circumstance. But that's not what's happening here. There are at times different family members. Sometimes it's a child. Sometimes that's an adult child. Sometimes it's the mother. Sometimes it's the father. Sometimes it's like the uncle, whatever. But with this consistency with this thing, normal, great people, blah blah. The cops don't have a bunch of interactions with them prior. So while a couple of them that I studied, looked at, did have previous calls to the address, but like 2 times over 14 years of one drunk and disorderly, and the other one was an argument, right? So it's the same thing. So not terribly bad, right? Not church angels, I guess, but not terribly bad. But they did. That they weren't they kept to themselves type. No, they were involved, like neighborhood members, and did the barbecues, all this stuff, and then all of a sudden they snap, right? And nobody can understand it. Like no one understands the why. And they always look for the why. And nobody understands it. And even now, right, there's a manifesto, right? You can't read that because that's too dangerous for you. But I am increasingly of the mind, and I'm just going to kind of hint at this, but and drive by it. But I'm sure I'll come back with a more solid version of this. But I think it's a very similar situation to what we have with the TI, right? Is that in a moment, so. Okay, I'll do it in this order. So in a moment, that person is, without their knowledge, susceptible to, I'll just throw it out there, supernatural activity where they are influenced, strongly influenced, possessed, if you will, but maybe not to the degree just strongly influenced, whatever, harassed, certainly, but where they act out, right? And then when it's done, they don't either have memory of it or and again, remember the one from Florida, 7-8 years ago now, I think, where the kid was naked and eating the face off of the elderly man that he'd killed, and said, laughed at them and told them, that they won't find any drugs in him. He goes, test me. At the time of his arrest, he's all, no, test me. You won't find anything. And he was very open about the fact that, according to him at the time, that he was hosting a demon, that he was manifesting a demon. They obviously took most of that out of the news reports because that upsets people. When I tell them that I'm sick and potentially with a much shortened lifespan, that upsets people. So don't talk about that. We don't like it. But this is the part that, again, I guess makes me sit up and take notice, is because what Jesus said is, when asked about what to look for. He gave some specific things. The very first one, be not deceived. All right, very first thing. So probably important. But in addition to the other stuff, and some of them are hard, and I'll have to get to those later, having to do with woe unto those who have a suckling child, or here, I'm gonna do this here real quick. Oh yeah, that's funny. I went to try to open up a online Bible, and it went through a bunch of stuff here. Alrighty then. So yeah, we got this this situation here where people then ask, Matthew 24. Okay, so they said, when will this happen? What would be the signs of the coming year, of your coming and of the end of the age? So in this context, even before the crucifixion, the disciples did know, right, what they had gotten, even though over and over it says they didn't understand. I think afterwards they just said, we didn't understand, right? Like in the same way I would, going, he told me, I didn't really get it. I didn't get it. I think that's what's going on here. But here we go. Let's see, you're going to hear, watch that no one deceives you. You're going to hear wars and rumors of wars. I think that's covered. See to it that you are not alarmed. Such things may happen, and still the end is come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There'll be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these things are the beginning of birth pains. And then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death. Wait a minute. What? Where's my rapture? Sorry. It's nowhere in the scripture. I hate to tell you that. There is no rapture like that. I just stepped on a landmine, I'm sure, for some people, but it's not there. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. If you read it with an open mind, I mean, if you pray before you read it, if you read this and pretty much all of Revelation and Daniel, you'll understand very clearly that the vast majority of people who choose to serve Jesus at the end of this age will be martyrs. So there you go. It says very clearly, right, that they will put you to death. And blessed is he who endures unto the end. He that endures unto the end will be saved. Right. So by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, I can go on for hours. But what I'm trying to get to here is I want to show you. Is it there? No. Is it here? Nope. Did I lose it? Dang. I lost it. Oh well. Because I was going to just show it to you here. But he says, again, you'll be handed over. This is verse 9. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. I think we've got that one covered. But the one who stands firm until the end will be saved. Right? He goes on some more stuff. Right? I think I missed it here, because he says, the one I'm looking for basically here, maybe it's in John, but I think it's here. That maybe it's just this translation, because it says, as it was in the days of Noah. Right? Basically, he's saying that, and that we can infer a lot to that because things were happening, including, right, the unholy offspring of demons and humans. And I'll get to this one. Well, you can certainly see this if you read through the Gospels, just the first four, and it's probably even helpful if you use these, which are the red letter editions, right? So that when some of them have it, some of them don't, that the words of Jesus are highlighted in red, but not necessary. But what you will see is, if you go through all of the ministry of Christ, right, the first four Gospels, and you go through that, one of the very interesting things is that everybody remembers, right, that he goes around and he heals the sick and raises the dead and causes the blind to see. But the thing that he did most, the most often performed miracle by far, and I think last time I looked, I think I counted like 3 to 1 of all other miracles combined versus casting out demons. Yep. And there are some, things that, people I've seen in the news and stuff, and it's like they're out of their minds in a way that I go, that looks what you'd expect, right? And there are some who will say, admit to it, but for the most part, right? They're people just acting a fool, and when they behave that way, they do look like they are not in control of themselves, right? So then if I move forward or backwards or whatever and go back to this, the last year and a half or whatever of these just tragic incidences of families, nearly always families, that appear to be like the murder-suicide situation. And there's something going on there, right? And if you, now, you want to put that together with the something going on there with the whole, Dylan Mulvaney crew, those people, who enjoy that sort of thing. I'm not trying to be mean here because I do want to because here's the thing, and this is something that's often overlooked by people, especially those who claim to be Christians, and instead are the worst, right? They're just absolutely disgusting, and they behave that way, right? And it points out very clearly the contrast and the highlight, right? That the whole point of Scripture, right? The whole point of the Bible, right, is to provide you a written record. Here's an invitation, right? It's an invitation into a relationship. It's like a love letter, right, written. And so many people either one think, oh, that's bullshit, right? It sounds too good to be true, or they said something I don't like, or how could a loving God let little babies die, right? While simultaneously choosing to ignore all the context that goes around it, right? Or even asking the question, how do you know that wasn't a loving thing for God to kill that baby and to protect them from some other really worse fate? You don't know, right? And until you know everything, you don't know. And you have no position to judge anyone. And that was the whole point. That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother topic. That at the eating of the fruit, I think we made ourselves God. We took away His authority. We took it to ourselves, and then we start judging others, right? But as our own judge, then we're incapable of doing it. The enemy got it because he's the attorney, right? And so he says, "Oh, you made the rules, God," and you say that well, here it is. If you break the rules, then you die. I did, and I'm under. He's under. He's on death row, right? Basically, he's just waiting for the call out. So he knows what's going to happen to him, but unfortunately, right, not locked up too tight, or he'll get. Here's Revelation 11, right, opening up, or Revelation 9, right, opening up, and Revelation 7, where the locusts come out. Anyway, so his target, right, the enemy, really isn't you. You're kind of you're a pawn, right? You're really not really anything to him. He despises you, does the enemy? Hates your guts because you have what he can't have, which is the ability to create life. So he's trying desperately right now for people to ignore that, and in fact to stick it back in God's face that I don't want this, and here, make me the different kind that doesn't work, and it's just, and it is disgusting, but it's sad too. I'm like, they've been like everybody else, deceived and lied to, right? But I can't fix it. But man, that's a tough one. But it goes right to exactly the way Lucy is, right? Of this, the pronouns, right? They, them. Take a look at Baphomet. Take a look at how it's equipped. Lucy is, well, they got nothing really. I mean, they got yes and no, but so you got a being that was not granted that, and they go, oh, well, I'll show you, right? So they just manifest into a body with this grotesque stuff that they've added. Oh, you ever notice what the stuff that they steal from the cattle is? Right, it happened just around the corner over here the other day. When they do the cattle mutilations, it's fairly common now. It's supposed to be the UFOs or whatever because they're like laser cut and stuff. But the things they take is soft tissue, mucus, and sexual organs, almost exclusively with cattle mutilations. Look it up. Why would anybody have any interest in that? Right? There's a why behind everything. So every time you look at these things, there is a why there. So now I can, I guess, come back to this and go, the why of sorry, I had a little moment there. The what's going on out here, right? The why that we're seeing what we're seeing in terms of some of these just awful things that we, again, parents, I'm no fan of cops, trust me. Again, whole different story. But I can empathize with them when they show up to a scene like that, and they get a whole family wiped out, and for seemingly no reason. But I think that there is a reason, and I think that reason is. I could do the drum roll, please. But I think here's what I think right now. I'll give you this as a tidbit, and then I got to go. I'll play a little noodles on the way out, but then I got to go. All sorts of stuff to do because apparently I don't have much time left, so I got to make the best of it. What am I getting to here? Yes, the sorry. Had a little. Oh dear, those are so not fun, man. I got to tell you. All right. So in again, the enemy doesn't really care so much about you. What he cares about, he wants to get back at God, right? He can't, right? So he can never destroy God. He can never cause harm to God. He can never do anything, right? And he's under, he's been convicted himself. But he's the lawyer, right? He's always the lawyer. Oh, I got punished for being rebellious. You got to do it for them. If you don't do it for them, and you did it for me, then you're not God, because your word is law, right? And if you break your own law, you're not God. I got you. He's just a pitiful little punk ass bitch, just really irritating. But my observation throughout my entire time here is that is exactly how some of those beings play. They're just not, they all seem to be a little different, right? So they're individuals. It doesn't look like it's a completely different topic, and one that I did not intend to get to, but I will at some point. Well, I'll just touch on it here real quick. Is that when it comes to demonology and that sort of stuff, not good to play with, and don't get anywhere near them. I wouldn't even recommend doing stuff like learning their names, or like if you have no reason to. I wouldn't learn anything about them, because they take any opportunity. If you open a door, they'll freaking take it. And why? Because they're the lawyers, right? They're the nitpicky ones. And in fact, that's the name that's given to to Satan, the accuser, right? The one who brings accusations of God's children before God. That's his description, right? The guy who makes legal arguments. He accuses God's children before God. So why did he do that? Does he care? He's interested in whether you keep the Sabbath, or he wants to see you, pay your tithe or whatever. Don't be ridiculous. But what he knows is that you can't do all of them, and all you have to do is break one of them one time, and it puts you under condemnation of the death penalty. Because that's what was established a long time ago, right? And so that's the nature of the war that we're in, is for souls, right? Who's going to choose who? And for the enemy, it's simply just a numbers game. Just take as many as you can, right? So blind them with whatever it takes, right? Promise them anything, scare them to death, build a church, right? And make it the best church ever. But do anything but keep them away, right? So they got all the exits covered. Whether you're going to go through the dark arts and alchemical and magic and do all that stuff. So you're going to do that, or you're going to go into light. Oh, you're going to become. You don't like darkness. You want to be the good person. Okay, well, lawful good instead of chaotic evil. Sure. Okay. So we'll take you into the church, and then depending on your personality, we'll either, one, if you're creative, we'll put you into an Episcopal or a Catholic church. And so all the liturgy and all the ritual just makes you die inside. It's just like, it's crusty, it's old, it's dead already. What the fuck am I doing here? Right? God is not going to be here. And in most of the places, God is not in those buildings. And so they go inside, they go, well, it's impressive. The architecture is nice. And I guess Latin is cool and all that. And drink some wine, but everything else is weird, and so, so that's going to take you off in a direction that doesn't really lead you to the Creator, does it? It's an off ramp, and you'll find it every single place, whether it's New Age movement, whether it's be your first clue, right? If they're not willing to walk it out with you, then you better check again. right? So one of the things that I find true for people who follow Dad is that they seem pretty willing when they find another traveler who's going in that same direction. They seem pretty willing to just walk each other home, right? That tells me something, right? So I learn things by observing people, and largely I'll talk about this more in the future because what probably nobody really got, if they're looking for drama in all this, despite my unintended consequences of health stuff, a lot of people thought that they they knew what was going on, and I don't want to I don't let's see here. Is that it? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So now I'm like losing my direction here. Okay, so yeah, so darkness that surrounds us, and so Jesus went. Hopefully, I'm going to pull these back together. So when Jesus was here, the number one, like one of the most common things that he did, right, is cast out demons, right? Well, we've now been made to believe that demons either don't exist or it's a metaphor or whatever. Again, one of the things I find that it's annoying to me is that when they, I guess the elites or whatever, or whomever, they go, people are stupid, the public is stupid, and we can do whatever we want. And it irritates me probably more because it's true, right? They just kind of do it right in the open and get away with it. People are like, they wouldn't do that. Yeah, they would, and they are, over and over. And they're just one of the things they do is, flat fucking lie to you and gaslight you all day long, right? Well, here's one for you. You want some of this. The current state of, if you trust, Jersey Shore or some shit like that for your source of income or information, right? Then you will perceive people who are involved in spiritism, right? So mediums, that sort of thing, contacting the people after dead, yada yada yada, all that sort of stuff. You'll find it to be a fairly small trade currently, right? That kind of centers around sort of a lifestyle thing of like gypsy life. It's sort of a thing on its own, but very few people outside of that. So you got the kind of the true believers, a pretty small group, and in a way that I want to cover at another point, which is that most of the time that we go back to the very top of the show, that you're a victim about something, and most of the time we're a victim of ourselves. We just want it to be true, and we know that it to work out, and so you go along with it, and you should know better. It's, every time you're going to get burned. So let's see here. What? Not now. Not milk. So we get everybody's going to try take advantage of you, and this I want to show you this. Now normally again I would just leave it alone and I would do exactly what I said that I was going to do, right? Which is just simply to just delete it and go whatever. But then I thought about it overnight and I went, you know what, it wasn't for me. That wasn't my it wasn't sent to me. The message wasn't for me because they know that I know that none of it's true, right? But it's to make you question whether or not you should, hang out here and follow or whatever. And did I take it away? Because that's sad. Because I did want to show this to you. I was going to hide who did it. I don't care about going after the person, but So, okay, here's one. Here's one, and I don't think this person had anything in mind, but I'll go to the next one, and they did. So, this person, I'll kind of cover that up here, commented that shaking that I have right now, right, also happens to alcohol also. Yes, called the DTS. Not saying that's what it's from. Okay, just saying that. I'm not saying it's that, but and so I'll give you the benefit of that one for free. But yeah, no, that's again. I think the growing team of 12 plus doctors that I have, and 150 or so PAs and people working on my thing in different aspects, they would know, right? If I was getting up to something no good medically like that, right? They'd know. They would also kick me right the fuck out and not let me attend some of the things that I do if that were the case. And you know what? They would know if that's the case because I have to have blood draws and UAs all the time, like 3 or 4 times a month, to try to figure this stuff out. If there was as much as a drop of anything untoward in there, that they would know, and they would be extremely butthurt, and probably they'd have to report me to the authorities. That's their job in some cases. Now, I didn't hurt anybody or anything like that, but what I'm saying is, if it were the case that I was A, misleading you, and B, up to some desperate, like no good thing, then it would be very easy to see, and it would mean that they couldn't, right? They wouldn't work with me at all. And so also I'm going to pull this up. You can't see it. I won't show it to you, but I'm going to pull up my chart thing here because it just run here. There's about 61 pages of of stuff that goes through my clinical history and has, but I did want to show you this because and perhaps I should just make a video on it on its own and say this is what this is people who they may be trying to get at me and rattle me a little bit, but likely not. If they know anything about me, they know I don't give a shit about that. But what they do want, right, apparently, is that you have questions about it, that you go, oh, I don't know if we can trust this guy. Like, what's he going to say? It's weird. First of all, I think it would be good to know that I don't really get anything out of this. I haven't really asked too much. I did used to mostly I asked for people, for other people, and not myself, because I can't be trusted with money, not to just give it away. And so the idea that I would take it from somebody is like, again, you have no idea what it even means to be friends with that. It's like, so I'll give you this. There was an accusation on a year ago, whatever, that I lifted the bag or withheld some money from a person who I was collecting for a donation, right? And so the first thing is the obvious one. Well, that's retarded. Like, I hate to say retarded, but what's the point? Why couldn't I would just ask for money for myself? Right. What's the point in asking money for somebody else and then not giving it to them? That doesn't even make sense, because they gave it to me first. And the second thing about it, of course, is that sorry, that they got no way of knowing anything, right? And I have all the receipts everywhere, right? So you just so they put up a message, so not that not for me, right, but for you, so that you go, oh God, is this guy doing something bad? What's he doing? And it's on the, you're acting like a naughty person. So give me a second here. I want to show you this. So one person saying, hey, that's what also happens, with alcohol withdrawal. Yeah, it does. I mean, it can. DTs, entirely different system in the body. is the musculature system, but the way that it attacks the nervous system is different, right? And so, let's see. Oh, crap. It's just so. I'm having trouble here because it was just so long ago that I don't want to. I want to do this, but I really do though want to show you this because I want to let you know that people don't particularly. Why is that happening? Not there. Okay. Somewhere in here, perhaps. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I need to do this. Sorry. Oh my God. Now it's going to try to put me in two-step verification so I can get you here. I just wanted to get to that content or that thing. Okay, so here we go. It's trying to two-factor authenticate, and I hate it. I really despise that thing. Yes, it's me. There's that. Thank you. That how important it is that you don't get any. You don't get to have the experience of, meeting Dad. Hang on a second. No. Oh, I'm looking for the one that maybe I did remove it just because, and then I thought the better of it, and I said, hey, I'll try that. All right. Because I want wanted to see this, and maybe it got removed because I responded to it and said what I needed to say. I guess it's unfortunate because I should have just had it down here. I really hate doing that. So it was from. Oh, I also needed. Yeah, it's a different thing too. I also wanted to say thank you so much to those who sent gifts, financial gifts over the last couple of days. Very surprising and not. Not something I was asking for about, but it certainly does help. And you guys are awesome, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. But they, PayPal would not let me send a thank you note, and it's just it was super annoying. I talked to them about it, and they, they. I can't find the thing here. Anyway, I guess I'll just have to tell you. And then the thing is, I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want them to see it for the reasons, which is, let's see here, is that it? I don't know, man. So basically, I'll just tell you what they said, I guess, because it was, the context is like this. They said, hey, you don't get to, maybe because I told them I was gonna remove the comment, but so perhaps they did themselves, and I can't find the information now. Oh dear, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Yeah, I didn't ask for it. Well, I would have been super happy to have something other, for sure. So, let's see. Yeah, I guess I'm not gonna find it here. In that, well, comment was, I responded to it, and then I said that I would remove it, and then I thought better of it overnight and said, yeah, I should probably show people that because that's what people think of you, right? Basically, it says this, the tone and tenor is, Baldini, you can't help anybody until you help yourself, and you're not doing those things. You know what I mean? Yeah, making some implications there, and stuff I've already covered. If I need to cover it again, I'll cover it. But it's bullshit. And if anybody had, if anybody has, if you want to come at me, I guess I'm not about drama. I want none of it. And I'll tell everybody just take a walk. But if you think you got something that you haven't complained about, if I harmed you in any way, come to me. Let's talk about it. Let's demonstrate it, because I have receipts for everything, right? Like I don't just make stuff up like a lot of people do. But I just I just do my thing, and I follow Dad as best I can and try my best, to honor him. And that's where I'm getting to the bottom of this and going, for those who had questions, right, or if you have questions about my integrity, whatever, that's fine. Although that's I guess the sad part, right, is that I would want to improve your discernment, right, to see what, I'm not saying that, I understand, I'm not saying that I'm elevated in any way, or I'm better than anybody else in any of that stuff. Well, but what I am saying, right, is that when people try to detract from it, right, and I don't go after anybody. I'm not trying to harm anybody. I don't rarely even respond to attack videos, and there's been a few, right? For what reason? Well, again, the only thing I can think of is that people are actually it does benefit them in some way, and again, not in some ways, not even my business. Usually it's between them and Dad. That's usually the email that I get, right? It's a gratitude for the opportunity to get to know Dad. And I'll take that all day long. And I'll take all the slings and arrows of the other people as well. But I think it's kind of rude to come in and make all kinds of implications and go, yeah, if you think you got something, come on with it, right? Don't hide behind your little mask and, act like you're going to throw down these little insinuations. Oh, Come on, no, go ahead and be open with it, because I said everything, right? That's the thing that pissed people off. I said everything. The things you did. You're not supposed to say that. Don't say that. It's embarrassing. Oh, really? Yeah. Let's see what's embarrassing, right? The actual behaviors, right? Because the thing about it is that shitty people really hate good people, right? They really hate the Spirit of God showing up because it makes them look bad. Their darkness sticks out, and they stink when they're around people who are just carrying the light of God's love. Right? I'm not out to get anybody. I barely even mention anybody. I quit most of the major shows I was doing because people get upset because I'm friends with God. I rarely talk to him or talk about him in that way, right? Even in this context, you come here for the specific purpose of it, and I'm cautious about how I introduce the concept, because my intention, right, is just simply for people to get to know him on your own. What can, I don't want to get in the way of that. I'm not going to tell you what he said. I could be wrong. I don't want that responsibility, right? So all I'm doing is hey, if it's anybody who says, hey, I don't like I didn't get good results from this last thing, right? Or there's a million different reasons, and I would say good reasons, because that's my experience, right? If you want to know the depths of what actual, real, true love looks like, there's no other way to get it, right? But I can't sell this to you. I can't tell you
I can't make you have an experience I had myself, right? And I can't sell it like, oh, you need to do it. Oh, I'm sorry, selling it like, here we go. Here's a good one. You want to see this bullshit? Oh man, this really fucking set me off too. I told my wife, I was like, none too happy about this. McConaughey, whatever that. Yeah, no, is it Matt McConaughey? I can't even spell his last name. Yeah, Matt McConaughey. This douche. Huh, he's a pretty good actor. I mean, a True Detective. If you want lies in the movies with. Or rather lies in the news and real truth in the movies, True Detective, right there. There's so much truth drops in that, your head will explode. It's ugly, right? You won't want to play there, but it's ugly. But now this idiot thinks he's so fucking cool that he's gonna be a lifestyle guru. I mean, like, so, how pathetic is that? He's now going to sell his bullshit, folksy fucking language to people who are right now struggling just to live. I mean, they're desperate. They're desperately lonely and sad, and they need love. And he's got bullshit. And the first thing he's going to do is take your money, right, and give you what Tim Robbins and a couple of people come and talk to you and tell you about how shitty your life is, and then they're going to make it better. But you got to do exactly what they say, and you got to pay them a bunch of money, right? So you've already paid money to go listen to this bullshit, and then they're going to tell you, oh no, you need to invest more money because that's what winners do, right? Winners go all in, right? If you're tepid, if you only put a couple of bucks in, well, that's what you can expect to get out. Of course, you're going to get screwed. You got to go all in to really get that shit, brother. And he's going to do that. He's loaded already, and he's going to fucking take people's money. It's disgusting. I'm sorry, I don't usually talk about people that way, but this guy bugs me, right? Because I liked him generally as an actor. He's a talented actor, and I'm sure that means something. But this is bullshit. Where I saw he's got an ad on Facebook, and I thought at first it was a joke. I was like, yeah, okay, somebody spoofed him pretty good. That's pretty funny. And then I realized that he wasn't kidding, and then I saw what he's actually trying to do. So first I think it's a joke, right? And then it's like some life. Of course, he's a lifestyle guru because why wouldn't he be, right? And then I realized no, it's a real deal. He's actually like asking people to sign up. And I'm like, no way. Now, okay, he's got some shit that he's going to throw out. He's got some folksy wisdom he's going to throw on people. And then I see that he's fucking charging people like premium for it, and I'm like, no, oh my god. So yeah, I can't. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm very, as you can tell, I'm very off character. Since this thing has happened, I'm sure I'm so fucking ready. Like, woo, let's go. So yeah, I'm good with that. So if I'll make this commitment to you that obviously I still have medical stuff coming in, and so I'll be as I always have been. It's honestly, it's really none of your business. But since we started, we're here. I'll be honest with you about the stuff that's going on, and again, the quick view, and I think I discussed this before, but if I didn't already, two separate but interconnected things seemingly happened at the same time, which of course correlation does not equal causation, but here we are. The first one being the myalgic encephalomyelitis, right, which chronic fatigue syndrome, but that's not really a great word, but it does describe some of it, that you can't your body can't recover from orthostatic intolerance, right? So anything that you do, it's like running a marathon, right? Then you're so exhausted that you're sick, but you don't notice it from the first indications because you didn't actually run a marathon. You're not covered in sweat, right? You didn't have any of that stuff, and you're not even initially having the lactic acid stress, right, or any of that stuff. It doesn't feel like it until then, right? You're supposed to be recovering, and all this is usually an ongoing process. It's not a stop and start, stop and stop. typically is that you're, as you're going throughout your day and doing your things, the body recovers and processes all the lactic acid and all the stuff that goes through, and everything's groovy. So in this instance, like for whatever reason, and this is why it's not well understood, some combination of neurological and chemistry kind of gets in the way here of my neurons, the nerve system, and just screws things all up, right? It's making a mess of it. And then, what comes along now, I guess 3 years later, best part of 3 years later, as a, stress induced, apparently a seizure, right? That, oh yeah, man, it's ugly. I got to tell you right now, you can probably hear it in my voice. My hands are shaking like I look like, again, a dime store Michael J. Fox. It's kind of shocking, right? Actually, if you're not prepared for it, right? Because there's a guy who was like, 6 months ago, 5 weeks ago, really. Other than that, how was Dallas, Mrs. Kennedy? No, but other than the things that are killing me, like the orthostatic intolerance and the ME. Otherwise, I would appear to be in very good health. Robust, always have been my whole. I've never been sick my whole life with anything, right? And so the fact that this kind of comes along now, it's a little bit funny, I guess. Not that funny, but well, all right. So yeah, that's where we are. We got that going. So I'm try to get to here, because I can't even make things move. It's so bad. Yep, it's stuck. Oh my god. I was trying to just update my browser here for the stream, because I can't see I cannot see any of your comments or anything until I do that. Yeah. So, trying that. Ooh, I still have channel violations. Ooh, active community guidelines warnings on May 28, 2021. Ooh, medical misinformation on Cocky Pop report, and the appeal was rejected. Like, there could. They look straight in your face and just lie. It just makes me want to punch them in the throat. All right. Let's see. What do I got here? I can't even see the comments. I can't see. Yeah, I'm not even able to see the channel. I literally can't even monitor it. So weird. Oh, there it is. Okay, it is there. Strange. It took like 4 resets for it to. Oh, look at that. I don't see any of your chat, unfortunately. That's a bummer. So there's that. I think I covered those things. There's a bunch of stuff that I'd probably need to cover at some point if I want to continue doing this. But I'll give you sort of the bottom line of what's happening and what I'm going to do. So the basics are that, in addition to, after what I mentioned there, and I have the myalgic encephalomyelitis. So that's the kind of the long-term thing that's caused the intractable vomiting. We're pretty sure about that. And it's a neurological disorder, right? So not a GI issue. I mean, it's having an effect, obviously, on the tract, but it's a neurological functioning issue. In the same way that, the other one is that it's a, I don't even know what's happening here. Yeah. Sorry, I was just trying to get the chat back up and try to get the stream appearing to be live again. But like I said before, that it does not look live from where I sit. unfortunately. So then I had the actual broadcast window open, and it was, it's not going to do it. Anyway, so I can't see chat. It's not working. So yeah, but anyway, short version. It's too late for that. But after the oral surgery last week, I had a seizure, and of a neurological disorder, and it appears to be. Again, I haven't been able to spend much time. Well, really no time with my neurologist, but with the on-staff neurologist. In terms of prognosis, long-term stuff, it's just really until we get in there and kind of look, don't know, because it's presenting, right, as sort of a conversion disorder, which would be, probably the best outcome is there's just, it's like it's not really psychosomatic, right? But it is a result of a feedback loop of neuron traffic that then causes, it basically broke the governor off this low-level tremor, right, that you have, and suddenly now it's become big tremor. So even you have a little low-level tremor, right? That's just part of human. It's like it's a thing, and you'll notice it if you're drinking heavily, right, or let's say it's tired and you're trying to thread a needle and your hands start shaking. It's that same system. It looks much like that, only big, much amplified, and it's not in control, right? And some of the side or the other places that you're having these are, the brain and in your eyes where you're having these twitches, and so that's not good, right? That's a bummer. And the other thing is it appears to be, degenerative as well. So, so again, unless Dad wants to do something totally different, then we'll do that. But as it is, it looks like it's a abbreviated run, right? So I'll need to figure out that and make plans and see what I can figure out, like how long I reasonably have before I can't communicate. I think that is probably my biggest concern, is that I will no longer be able to effectively. Well, I already feel like I'm struggling to effectively communicate in a way that I once did, but it is concerning, and it is. I don't like the idea of not being able to speak clearly to you in a manner that is meaningful and that brings hope and maybe joy, right? Comfort. And again, other than that, I got nothing, right? My whole thing is send you to Pops, right? So if anybody's making any accusations or throwing shade, right, to talk to him. Right, to go talk to him. So whether you have concerns about my behavior, my ethics, I strongly encourage you to go talk to Dad, because if you are a person who is able to connect and listen to the response, I 100% trust, right, that he's not going to throw me under the bus in that regard. So well, I can trust the response, but more so. That's just my relationship with him sort of demands that I treat it in a certain way, seriously, and running around willy-nilly and getting in people's pockets. Now that's not my thing, right? That's I was about to put 3 or 4 names in there. That's a thing for people who got merch. How about that? I got no merch, right? I got that. Got no merch. Not trying to sell you anything. Nothing, right? And I'm not even here to try to help people. Like our email said, "Oh, you can't help me." I can't help you. Not a thing I can do to help you. Right? What I can do is encourage you, right? And keep my word, to be a man of intention, to keep my word to help walk you out of here if you're willing to go in the same direction I'm going. Now, I don't demand that you do. I'm not 100% sure all the time I got the right way, but I'm trying to follow the light, and so far that method has worked pretty well, because all the time I find myself closer and closer and closer to the source of the light and the voice, and that is a pretty good indicator that I'm getting closer and closer and closer to being home, and I really want to be home. So again, I don't. I'm sorry I brought up that sort of beef at all. I realize that there's probably a time, and probably that time is probably sooner than later, that I probably should just sit down and bring out those receipts, right, and just go, here you go. And if you will, and still trust people. See, the thing is, I kept my mouth shut. I don't need to get into fucking back and forth argument. I got other fish to fry. I got other things to do. I'm freaking dying over here. You know what I mean? So, my health is collapsing. I got time to play stupid shit and drama, with a bunch of middle schoolers, right? It's ridiculous. So, I took the hit in terms of his sadness because of relationships, but people can do what people are going to do. I can't change the way they think or what they believe or any of that, right? So I'm not about to go into Barbra Streisand territory. So you do you, boo. All right, that's what I got. But on the other, there were those others on the other hand who, when shit sort of hit the fan. People started throwing shit or whatever. They went, yeah, I don't buy that, right? Because that's not who that is. And, again, certainly I can go back to everyone who's known me prior. That's a lot of people, and they would be very surprised that anybody would even make such an accusation, right? Like I'm the last guy that you would think would do that, because you see, I'm so committed and dedicated to Dad that. Taking something from somebody would be a disaster. It's like it would be a curse. Like filthy lucre. Like I can't even take money that I know is bad money, right? That somebody else did something to get it, right? And even if I get it legitimately, I don't like that, because it's filthy, man. It's bad, and I don't necessarily consider people, asking for money on their streams. Like some people are obviously grifters, right? And you do you. Again, if you feel compelled to do that and it makes you feel good, absolutely. It's not a thing I like to do, right? I have asked one time for, at the very beginning, for a computer, if you wanted to help out with that, because some people did ask if they could help with that expense, and of course, sure. I'll let you help out with that. And then I did thereafter. I did ask people for donations specifically for people for their needs at that time, and then completed those missions not only successfully, but in every case added much of my own very small resources to it. Right. So. And thereafter, right? I don't know what any other I hear now that there are yet more accusations that are kind of whispers out there. Whatever. Somebody got more time on their hands than I do, and a really weird way of how to spend it. Like that just seems bizarre to me. If it does come out that, right, I have a substantially foreshortened lifespan, and that seems like that is probably the case at this juncture. Okay, man, like set me free. I mean, like this about the part of the game where I'd be tempted to hit the reset button and go for a better score anyway. So the fact that it's in hardcore mode is kind of a bummer, I guess. But shit, man, let's if it is, again, turns out that it's a shortened thing, great, because I'm tired. And frankly, right now, with the conditions being what they are and having changed, and I can't really hold the kitchen knife, and I can't do the basic stuff. It's like you wake up one day and it's a before and after. That's for sure. That one day everything's normal, and the next day. Nothing and normal is not the right word you're even looking for there. There's nothing right. It's bizarre. But the one thing I'll say, right, is through all of it, you won't get me saying anything bad about him, no matter what happens to me. I'll take every bit of it, because like one thing, not to mention that thousands of others of stupid things that I did that way back in the day, I was going to say to harm people, but I didn't ever intentionally harm people. But I know that in my early life, right, because of my focus on myself, it did bring like harm to others in terms of it hurt their feelings, and they felt like they weren't important in my life, and at the time that they probably weren't as important as they felt they had right to be. So I can't make that judgment, man, and I can't go back and fix stuff. I will say, and I have said before, that if there is someone that I brought harm to, and that you were harmed by my behavior and somehow, reach out, let me know. We'll make it right. There's that. If you make it up, I don't like liars either. So if you make it up, we're gonna have a problem. But if there was a situation where I knowingly did somebody wrong, I would want that correct immediatamente. Right? I wouldn't want it. I don't want it hanging over my head. It'd be like terrifying to find out that all this is some sort of karmic payback because I didn't tie somebody's shoes or some shit. I don't know, man. It's all kind of weird right now, but this is and here's the thing too: it's a far more little intimate gathering that we're having here than we used to do. Of course, though, I got the one stream analytics that says evaporated into the ether out there, plus the one that I'm currently have going now. So it's good. They put all sorts of stuff in here. Anyway, so I did promise I'd give you a little noodles. Probably going to be somewhat foreshortened just because I'm really tired. But I sure love you guys, and I do. I miss our hangout section. So. Yeah, it's a weird. Some radical, weird changes that were very fast, right? You have to make some adjustments really fast to figure out how to go the day to day. But I think I want to get back here the one person I ragged on a little bit for giving me shit about my post, my Facebook post. So they're right, you're gatekeeping, man. Don't do it. And pray about why that is necessary for you. Yeah, sorry, he's never going to listen to this, but when you take offense to something, like especially a lot of offense, it's probably a good idea to dig deep and figure out why. Like listen to yourself and try to understand where what that seems familiar with, whatever prior event that you had that was similar to that, because it's usually a way to figure out what's behind it. Most of the time that these things occur, the source of the problem is the guy in the mirror. Or, and this is the other one, the lies we tell ourselves, that we told ourselves enough lies. That was probably bullshit, and but for whatever reason, we're avoiding confrontation or conflict, or we so badly want the outcome of what's promised, whichever way it came, that's not the right way to go, man. Consistency and honesty in everything, and because that's the to me that's how I get well done, that good and faithful servant, right? That's the only thing I want to hear. I don't want to hear somebody tell me how great I am, or how smart I am, but I'm just missing it because I'm doing all these terrible drugs and deceiving people. What? Oh dear. Anyway. Yeah, so I just want you to notice that people are sometimes bad. I mean, well, they behave badly, right? But don't make my encouragement here. Don't debase yourself based on what they do, right? Don't take yourself to their level. It's weak. Got weak kung fu. Anyway, I think I would put a cap on it here. This is absolutely not the way I'd intended for this to go at all. Zero. But here we are, right? So Sorry about the weird start. It's still not working right. I still don't see a preview pane. It's still saying that it's having trouble and not streaming. Says that there's 0 people there. It's been going for 0 time. There's no analytics, and it's just twirling. But if I do anything to it, last time it'll drop as soon as I close that, it's going to drop the stream. So I'm about to do that, and. But if you guys want to reach out, I think the email address is probably in the liner notes, unintended.consequences3@gmail.com. I'll do my best to get back with you in a timely manner. It is a weird time around here, as you can imagine. There's lots of going on and then nothing going on at the same time. So it's a little, put this out there, and again, he's being cryptic, but it wouldn't do for me to say anything until something happened. But that there is the chance, right? That that I've been given some opportunity, and if this does turn out to be as bad news for my kids as it might be, right? That it foreshortens substantially my life expectancy, then I will probably make it a full court press to try to do one. I'd say a moonshot, but that's not in my vocabulary anymore. I'd make one big go for it, one big hurrah to see if I can make a difference. And it's a little reminiscent, I think, of the only generally willing to put forth the effort needed to show everybody up a little bit, not just win, but a little bit more. From time to time, and if I wasn't certain of it, I'd probably be disinclined to participate fully, because I'm not down with that. And I also know that there are people who I've beaten many times at different things, and they're now looking for the opportunity to humiliate me. So I was judicious about it, in that regard. But again, number of people that I managed to and still am friends with all the way back to grade school, right? So that helps, I think, keep your wits about you a little bit, at least some grounding. You know where you came from. You can't be dishonest about that. And for me, again, I not only would I not want to be dishonest, but I don't think I could at this point. It would burn my tongue on the way out. But that falls into the next part, right? Which is that no good deed goes unpunished. If you're living by a set of rules, then other people realize very quickly that if they don't, that gives them a very quick advantage, is that they're not limited by those rules. So they kind of tie your hand behind your back, and then they try to beat you up. The thing is that, I'll come back to this, in as much as you've done it unto the least of these, you've done it to me. So my little friends out there who are trying to look for ways to throw me under the bus or make life difficult for me. All I'm going to say is, I pray that you do not, but for your own sake, because in as much as you've done it into the least of these, you've done it to his kid, right? So he impugns everything that you do just as though you did it to Jesus. And I already know what you did to him. So I'm no better, right? I'm by a long shot. So I gladly take the hits, and I'm not that big a deal really for anybody, other than I guess a few people who either feel threatened or I don't even know what. It's silly. So, but again, so it seems like they want me out of their little community, and I'm okay with that, right? I got bigger fish to fry. There are people here who I just desperately love, and I would not want to see, the back of their shirt, forever. I would like to keep, some of the friends and relationships, but most of them evaporated very quickly as soon as the slightest little allegations of nothingness were made. No evidence, nothing. So I find it curious that people would be not only so easily convinced, but so willing, like they wanted there to be something bad. It's like, wow, that's wild. Anyway. It's like you took out the one guy who was actually trying to do some good, actually helping people and giving the money away, and not sticking it in his own pocket. It's fucking hilarious. You guys are, it's fucking ironic as hell. Anyway, but I just let it go because, if I were a younger man, I would have probably tried to prove it, right, or be insistent that everybody knew that I was right and other people wrong, and it's like basically again I'm at the point where if that's what you if you are so easily convinced by a whisper of an allegation of like, oh, might have done something. If that's all it takes, I don't want you here. I mean, I don't mean to be a dick, but if we're going to go to battle, right, and we're all out there in the camp and we're prepping our armor and shit, if there's anyone that I think that might for a second turn, needs to go home right now. Like you bring danger to everybody around you. If you're afraid, if you're in battle and modern battle, if you're in war, and that one guy who wakes up goes, oh, I think I'm going to get it today, man, I'm scared. Good chance he gets it. And that's a whole topic for a whole nother thing. Is the number of people who openly announced, right, that it was their day. I'm just going to get it. I know it, and they did. And it's like, man, there's that opens up some very weird possibilities. And I've had at least 2 experiences with seemingly impossible, like more than just impossible, but like literal time travel. And I don't have any other. I don't have any other description for it or any other. It doesn't make any sense outside it being. It's a hard thing to explain, but the sequence of events and what happened, only they make more sense in terms of this weird ability for time shifting, and because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. It's like, and the thing happened so twice, so fuck if I know, man. It's all weird. And one day I'll tell these stories. There's great stories, and that's what I wanted to do a long time ago, before things got weird, right? It was tales of the woo, right? People telling the wild shit that's happened to them that they just don't know what's going on. It seems important, but we don't know what it is. I'm sure, like you like me have had more than one of these things, and I think this is where I want to get back to the part that I missed, and I was trying to get to so long ago. Right? Is that J-Bro said that things will be as in the days of Noah and him, right? So that's how it would look at the end. Well, so during the days of Noah, there was Nephilim, right, all over the place, and then wreaking havoc. And then when Jesus was there, like he didn't break bread. He didn't do any healings until he'd had half a dozen exorcisms. Right. The number one thing he did. Look it up. The miracles. The count the miracles. Right. The ones he did. There's by far, if I remember right, it's like at least a third more, if not 50% more. And it might even be twice as many. I can't remember, but it was stunning. It was stunning, and I just had studied it one time. I was like, holy crap! And I counted them all up, the number of exorcisms outweighed than any of the blind to see or dead rising, any of that stuff that he cast out many demons, and so therefore, right, you can kind of infer that it was a fairly commonplace occurrence. People knew what was going on. They drew him there. They knew they needed the help from a person who was holy man or whatever. That they knew that's where to get the help, and they named it, right, that it is an unclean spirit. So for what it's worth, right, like there's that, and I think that what we're seeing now is the leading edge of that. And I think that it's just like AI, and it's a whole nother show I need to do, is the state of AI and what's happening with that, the artificial intelligence and what they've done there, right? So Borg, right, go back to Truth in the Movies, Lies in the News. If you're familiar with any sort of sci-fi, and mostly Hollywood, you will find, again, pretty much the entire story of man embedded in those films and TV shows, but not together, right? One little bit here, one little bit here, one little bit here. Sort of like the, the Doctor Who episode, right, with the VHS tapes and or I guess they were DVDs with the bonus feature. Anyway, there's a series of these things, and they all get pressed, but in the extras, right, the catalog stuff at the end, then there's a message from Doctor Who, right? But each one is on its own. They are all published at different times, but all put together, right in the order. They carry on a conversation that he'd had previously. It's the nature of timey-wimey, slimy. Yeah, if you know, you know. Anyway, so the thing is that I have both seen and experienced things that were at least as weird in that, right? Like, whoa, that's very unusual. And of course, you realize very quickly you cannot speak of it to anyone, or you will immediately get put in the nutty bin. So that's not a good idea. So then you're on your own. Try to figure it out. Hey, Mark, absolutely. Yeah, Mark, absolutely. Stay in touch. And I apologize. I'm actually, I owe you the next email. The last response you had was so big, but it came and so full of amazing stuff. I wanted to answer it in pieces. And instead I got, sick, whatever it is. I got this. So my apologies. I can't even really hardly type because of the, because of the, the thing. Oh, fuck, I'm going to be Biden now. Holy shit. End it now. Oh, God. Dad, really? We'd have to do it like this. Oh, man. Anyway, I love you guys so much. Kind of forgotten how much I love hanging out with you, and the energy is there. It's very different than just recording something, right? So it's very obvious that it's a real time phenomenon, and that we are in some way connected to one another, and that connection has profound implications. The more I look into it, the more I look at it and how it works. Pretty convinced that is the nature of the way that we that we're at, and yeah, when the dreamland touches the waking hours, and reinforces it, and contains same or similar information, perhaps packaged in a different way, it'll rattle you, because I think we're told that stuff's not real, and you shouldn't pay any attention to it, right? Or you're crazy. It's such a disservice, right, to people. That's one of the things I'm probably more bent about the controllers or whatever, right? Is that whole thing, right, of stealing our spiritual life, like the most important. I mean, obviously, I guess that's why they would do it, but it's the most important aspect of your psyche, right? And to have that stolen and told and repeatedly told vociferously, right, that if you even open that door, if you even explore that wing, right, of the place, you're going to get kicked out so bad no one will ever hear a word you say, and we'll probably stick you on some electroshock therapy and just set the dial a little too high, because that will save us the problems. It is about that bad. Yeah, and I don't want to play with it. But there's the truth of it, which is that we it appears that if it it's in Revelation again. So if it hasn't already in a physical way that we can see, then it for sure has already in a existential way. The locusts, right, of Revelation 7, and they come out, devour everything. It's either that's either a metaphor that they're taking everything away from people, right, and stripping away like all the society stuff that all the stuff we grew up with is now gone. It's raw. It's just the machine, right? So think of the T2, right, the Terminator or whatever, with all the body suit stuff off. It's now down to the titanium frame, kind of like that, I guess. But we've got these touchstone moments that they stole from. I mean, they stole our history and then sort of put the breadcrumbs back in the in the films and stuff with little breadcrumbs here and little breadcrumbs there. So instead of a nice fresh loaf of bread, you get these day-old breadcrumbs that they use as croutons or whatever. So you don't get the actual information, but I guess karmically they can't be convicted of not having told us. We talked about that before, right? That what is it, a karmic shrug, something like that. And at this point, I think I'm a little more leaning into the idea that what you're seeing there is a manifestation of a sense of sort of desperation, if I'm generous, or just condensation if it's they're just fucking with us, right? So that seem like children, just like petulant toddlers, and then obviously there are some that are at least my interaction, my direct experience. Some of them are kind of what you'd see in the movies, the guy in the suit and the super urbane, very world worthy, smooth, character. There are those, right? Most of them are not, right? They're more of the, I don't know, orcish variety. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I've just been doing it a long time. Everything was out of order. It didn't work at the outset. It still doesn't show me that it works. So the fact that we're actually here together is kind of a miracle, because all the data says that it shouldn't be happening. So there's that. Anyway, please leave me a comment, or send me an email. You know all the stuff. Love to hear from you. And I probably have a little bit more time now than I did before, just by virtue of that I can't, apply the trade of work much anymore. So I need to, and I could certainly use your prayers on that in terms of how we address the coming weeks and months financially. Is have a clue, because I just spent every penny we had on this dental thing, and had to go into debt, which I desperately didn't want to do, but just, didn't realize till too late that the estimate I'd gotten before was for only in one place. And so then when I figured out who I wanted to have do it, and I go to the to the different places, so I go to a periodontist, and he's like, runs everything down and gives me the estimate. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that seems about right. That's what I got. And he's like, yeah, okay, well, who are you going to get to do your appliances? I'm like, what? That was a whole another thing. I'm like, oh crap. And it just wasn't time. And I just don't have the resources for it. So, but I had to get done. So at the end, had to go with going into debt. So not a big fan, but it is what it is. So and I'm still in the healing process. I'm sure you can hear it. It's embarrassing and painful for me. It's not even a couple of weeks into the complete the works on getting all of the dental, all of the teeth out at one time. Can't even tell you. Oh, and he didn't give me any pain medications. I mean, not that I would have taken that many anyway, because I'm super cautious around opioids now. But no, they hadn't even offered it. It's weird. I mean, I took Halcyon for the procedure, but it's for the conscious sedation, right? Not for the pain. So shit, I don't know, man. That and a couple of times I was with it, and I could tell what they were doing, and he was really pounding hard on those teeth that man, even really, really getting in that jaw. So when I first woke up, with that pain in my jaw, in the trigeminal, right there at the connection, I thought, oh, fuck me, he's screwed me. Like I'm done. And when I talked to I had an appointment with him Thursday, and as a follow up, and he was super nervous when first thing out of my mouth is I had a seizure, and inflammation at trigeminal nerve. He's like, what? Wait, what? And pretty sure I think that he didn't actually hit it. It just the swelling is what hit that, but the seizure, is its own thing. So. Well, that's delightful. I had this bottle of water here when I started, and it was nice and cold, and now it's more than room temperature. It's kind of gross. All right. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. It's so great to see you, Bellingtano, and Mark. Hey Joe, I see you there, buddy. Not Chiquita, man. It's so good to see you, friend. It's been a minute. And Ronald and Mama, I hope you guys are well. We'll do more of it, right? Trying to get back into the swing of things. There's changes coming, and some of it, obviously I don't have any control over that, and some of it I do, right, or at least influenced by it. So hey, love you too, Joe. Man, it's been a long time. I hope your family is well. We're not getting any younger, but there is a chance I'll have to call you and talk to you about it. There's the place where my daughter and at the time her fiance came in for Christmas 2 years ago. We rented a B&B, Airbnb B&B in the CD, the Central District, or actually just south, more in the Asian District where the Buddhist temple is, because they call it Temple House. Anyway, got a Airbnb, and as luck would have it, a guy has a full studio in it that he'd, it's about my age. No, he's 7 years older than me, so he's up there. But yeah, he's got a pretty nice, full-featured studio in there. So when I rented it, I didn't even know it was there, and he didn't know me from Adam either when he showed it to me, until he showed the Airbnb, and they usually keep that part of the house locked off, so you don't know that it's there at all. So completely self-contained, and anyway, he left it open for us, and so we become friends since, and so we've gotten together a few times when health allows, and kind of feeling like it might be time to try to lay down some of those tracks, right, that we keep talking about. Have a couple of ideas that might be cool. Anyway, I hope you guys really. It's so good to see you, and I hope that you're well. I will try to come back, tomorrow for some actual scripture and do that. And I miss that a lot too. So anyway, thank you again so much for being here. It's been. I almost wept. No, really, it's like it's good to see you guys, and I certainly not delighted by the neurological disorders, but yeah, it's what it is. So what can I get? Was it going to do that? Yeah, but let's see if that will even play. What can I get? Was it going to do that? Yeah, but let's see if that will even play.